Time to go racing again in the Michelin Le Mans Cup. It's not actually been that long since their previous round a couple of weeks ago at the 24 Hours of Le Mans weekend, and that involved two races, of course, on the Thursday and Friday of this year for the LMP3s and the GT3s. But we still have plenty of racing still to come in this championship. I mentioned during our qualifying coverage it was 3 races, but that wasn't factoring in, of course, the extra race that we now have to find a home for at Aragon because of the postponement, cancellation, whichever you want to call it, of the race due to take place in May at Imola. So we are effectively a race behind, but that can be ticked off when we head to just up the road. It's about a 2-hour drive up the road from Zaragoza in the north of Spain. That will be round 4 then, but we're here in the south of France, just stone's throw away from the French Riviera for the 3rd race meeting of the season, and actually race 4 when you factor in those 2 split races that we had during the 24 Hours of Le Mans. They were only just over half points on offer there, 15 for a race win, whereas you get the more traditional 25 for winning this 1 hour and 50-minute race. It's Graham Goodwin at dailysportscar.com and me, Johnny Palmer, to keep you company and hopefully guide you through it over the next, well, just about 2 hours. And it's fair to say there was quite a lot of explaining in Barcelona to be done because we were under a lot of yellow, a lot of safety car for the opening hour.
Yeah.
Far too many incidents, I would say, Graham. Let's hope this time at New Castellet a much cleaner race.
Yeah, let's hope so. I completely agree. It was, how can we put it, somewhat chaotic. This time, though, around this 5.77 1 kilometre circuit, the Le Castellet, the massively long Mistral Straight is, of course, a major feature. Tight and technical first sector and a tight and technical third sector. But remains to be seen what we're going to see. We saw in the Ligier European Series earlier today, Johnny, plenty of slipstreaming of opportunities available. Let's hope we get a bit of that today. Let's hope, as you quite rightly say, we see a little bit less of the rowdiness. I think we'll put it that way that we saw in Barcelona. That was not the finest hour of a number of people on this grid. However, 42 cars in this unique setting, an historic setting for motorsport. That's Paul Ricard. The name Paul Ricard emblazoned on the pit building. One of motorsport's icons, without a shadow of a doubt. Always gives me a smile when I see it for the first time on arrival here. And it is great to be here. Blisteringly warm. I'd suggest, without seeing the graphic we'd normally get here, certainly into the 30s here, as it has been 31.3. We can see there on the gantry. If anything, it feels slightly warmer than that. Same as it was at Monza last week for the FI World Endurance Championship, and same as it is right across Southern Europe at the moment. If you're in Southern Europe and out and about, do take account of the weather warnings that are kicking around. This is tough to take over an extended period of time, as you might hear from my lack of voice. I'm suffering a little bit with it as well.
Well, it's all right, Graham, because you've got me alongside, so, you know, I can help you lubricate where necessary. You say... misses. You talk about the iconic nature of this track. Certainly is. I mean, it was celebrated 50-odd years a handful of seasons ago. There are a few people walking around with the classic bucket hat circuit Paul Ricard cap as well, the bob as it's called. And I want one of those, I think, because they've been wearing those for decades, and I wouldn't be surprised if 1 or 2 drivers trot off at the end of the weekend with one for the collection as well. Hopefully with a big Paul Ricard trophy as well, determining the fact that they finished on the podium in either GT3 or LMP3. We will wait and see. The 2 sessions were held back-to-back earlier on this afternoon, and we've got as many as 12 GT3 cars in this 42-car strong field, but a real mixture, I think a greater mixture of GT3 cars than we've ever had, certainly in the last 3 or 4 years. And Hiroshi Hamaguchi for Iron Lynx in the all-green number 63 car coming through to post the quickest time. But it was slim margins between he and Arnaud Robin, who had already scored a couple of pole positions along the way, and Gabriel Rindoni's Lippert Motorsport Lambo. So we have 2 of the Raging Bulls starting at the sharp end, at the end of a big story week for the Italian manufacturer.
Isn't it just? We'll come to that, I'm sure, when we get a picture of the Lamborghinis. So we're going to get 3 of the 12 GT3 teams on the podium. We're Looking at 3 of 30 LMP3 teams on the podium, and the odds there aren't great mathematically, and that means it's just going to be massively hard for David Drew there. Out in the blazing sun, the race overalls folded down to waist height, as I think we'll see for most people on this grid. It is blisteringly warm. Some of the drivers choosing to stay aboard. That is Terence Woodward, will start the 360 racing car, shares with Tommy Foster. And Brit making his comeback to motorsport for a year or so away. You can see, yes, there's a bit of green here and there, but when the sun plays its part, it's a very brown-looking surroundings.
Now, there is a hole in the pit wall should a car end up on the start-finish straight. We had that a little earlier on during one of the qualifying sessions, so there is the option. I accept the greenery that it's in sort of a V shape because the pit lane doesn't actually run entirely parallel with the start-finish straight, but if anybody does come a cropper on the start-finish line, at least the marshals have one option of getting that car into the pit lane quickly rather than having to push it all the way to the end of pit road. But it's a peculiar pit lane, this. The route into it was realigned a couple of seasons ago, thank goodness, because prior to that it was a hard 90-degree right followed by a 90-degree left. This is the Team Virage car. It's got so many Virage machines across the 3 different categories this year, and Oscar Bittar, along with his teammate Bracalente, will be the drivers in this particular car from Poland. Meanwhile, we'll work our way to the sharp end of the story from qualifying earlier on, with Shahan Sarkisian leaving it very late to bag 3rd position and in fact make it then an all CD Sports second row, with Fabian Michal's early session pace proving to be good enough for 4th position in the number 2 car that he shares with Kirill Smal. But Matthias Luton in the number 29 MV2S racing car with Emilien Cart at the wheel as well later on. And it's a pole position for Cool Racing of Switzerland, but we can now pause in a second or two, make sure that the singer's not going to lose her hat in blustery conditions. Even though we're north of 30 degrees Celsius, we will of course be pausing for the French national anthem, as we will do ahead of tomorrow's 4 hours of Le Castellet, which will be the European Le Mans Series race. But a 1 hour and 50-minute Michelin Le Mans Cup race to get out of the way first of all. And Duquesne's sprinkled through the order, but it is all about the French manufacturer Ligier and the 6 cars out front to start this race. Let's pause. Strains of La Marseillaise on the weekend, let us not forget, of Fête Nationale Française, the annual celebration of the 14th of July, known in English-speaking countries as Bastille Day, but the correct title of it, I'm told, and I should continue to utter, Fête Nationale Française, and a national holiday in the whole of France yesterday for that. So extend your weekend, Graham.
It is indeed. It's fabulous celebrations all around the country. Late last night, the organised fireworks displays went ahead, and tragically for motorsport journalists around the world, here in France, most of the takeaways closed.
Yes, and we also have one in our party who's struggling with quite a lot of ankle pain at the moment,
yes.
And it also closes the pharmacies. But I do believe he's managed to sort himself out with some medication today,
Excellent.
At least.
Frédéric Leclerc on the right-hand side there, the CEO of LMEM, Le Mans Insurance Management. And we have Nicolas Lapierre standing behind the tall gentleman with the cap, and he is the team principal of Cool Racing nowadays. This is, of course, Michelin Le Mans Cup, a key part of the development programme for, and a very successful one indeed for Cool Racing. Pierre Fillon, brief shot there of the president of the ACO. I'm sure still glowing after what was a triumphal centenary edition of the 24 Hours of Le Mans.
Yeah, we went without a hitch, didn't it, really? That whole weekend a bit. And after much trepidation, I'm sure, and so much build-up as well, 100 years in the making, pretty much.
Yeah. Team Tour, 8th on the grid. And it will be Auden Gudmundsson, the most Nordic-looking of Nordic drivers we have here, our Icelandic gentleman driver. Great things expected here. His pace has been getting better and better, and he has the not very Icelandic Colin Noble to join him for the second part of this race, and that will no doubt up the ante very substantially.
Although still fairly northern.
Fairly northern.
In the UK boundary, at least. Alexander Bukantsov and Jamie Winslow in the number 3 DKR engineering car. This is the car to start from 3rd position and involved in one of the more bizarre bulletins of the weekend. If you weren't around for that earlier, then you'll have to go back and dig out precisely our comments around qualifying, but it's very, very funny. And there is one of the bucket hats that is for sale this weekend. They've been selling that style of hat with the same kind of branding, well, probably since this circuit first came into being, with the checkered flag top. Tony Wells installed into the number 7 Nielsen racing car that he shares with Josh Skelton. And this car will be starting from 6th place after a decent qualifying from Tony Wells, defending, well, rather a previous champion in the Michelin Le Mans Cup. He won this with the Scottish driver Colin Noble in 2021. Last year, it was all about the Swiss team Racing Spirit of Le Mans, with Tom Dillman and Alexander Matschel as their drivers last year. Well, Matschel has returned this time around in the European Le Mans series. Julien Cherby partnered with Julien Henrion, and Henrion was someone who really impressed last year in the Ligier European Series, which is the rung below Michelin Le Mans Cup, effectively within ACO rules racing. And Henrion, after a spectacular season in the JSP4s in the Ligiers, gets a little bit of a helping hand financially.
It's a big helping hand.
Oh, okay.
It's a big six-figure helping hand. Yeah.
And then he didn't necessarily have to stick with Team Virage. I don't think there's any implication.
As long as there's a Ligier JSP 320,
yes,
he can choose his weapon.
Well, there were plenty to choose from. As mentioned, there are not many of the other manufacturer. So, yes, predominantly in this 22 car field, we have so many choices, but decided to stick with Virage, the team that he took the title with in 2022.
Third on the grid for the number 11 from CD Sports, Sarkisian and Chapard. And the number 11 car right in the thick of things. Hope you've seen still on the grid. And do you mind if I picture of the lid? Yeah, that's fine. Okay, there you go. Shake of hands and away we go. Now there's the grid from above. It's not the dove from above, but the drone. And the grid stretching off towards the
3 minutes board.
3-minute board being shown on the grid now, so it's not long, Johnny, before we're going to be getting underway.
Have a peer into the cockpit of Matthias Lüten, the German driver, again driving a right-hand drive Ligier and sharing with Emilien Cart in the MV2S number 29 car. So Cart from France, sharing with bronze Matthias Lüten. You must have a bronze in your driving combination. It was a bronze-only qualifying session, and the bronze must do at least, well, either driver must do at least 45 minutes of driving. So there's no preset pit lane window as such. You just have to make sure by the end of the hour and 50 minutes that both of your pilots has done that crucial 3/4 of an hour.
Yeah, a quick look as well at the pole-sitting car. It's the 87 car from Cool Racing, Adrian Chiller. And Cedric Ultramar, another graduate from the Ligier European Series. That, again, is another support series doing its job of being a rung on an important ladder for these drivers and these teams. Pole-sitting car, sorry, second place car for the GT3 standings is Honor Robin in the Racing Spirit of Le Mans. Aston Martin, which you'll share with Valentino Hazaglo. A pair together with the other brother Roman rather, will be in the GTE version of the car tomorrow for the LMS. And this is our pole-sitting GT3 car, the number 63 Iron Lynx Lamborghini Huracan Evo 2. And it was Hiroshi Hamaguchi that put the car there, and it will be shared with Vincent Abril, ex-Bentley boy, and a GT3 driver of no small talent.
Certainly not. So a bit of a coup, really, to get Vincent on board that particular Aston Martin. Vincent has, prior to
1
this...
minute, Bob, 1 minute.
Last year, I think it was, in Hyperpole, took the pole position at Le Mans in the GTE AM category, when he wasn't that used to GTE machinery, much more of an expert when it comes to GT3, and smashing that brake pedal as hard as you can, because the ABS will deal with a lot of it. So slightly more finesse required in the GTE cars, but this is the future for GT racing at Le Mans and in the World Endurance Championship, and indeed
30 seconds,
in the European Le Mans Series as well, as we wave goodbye to the GTE cars. But the Michelin GT3 Le Mans Cup, as it was known in 2016, has been the home for GT3 racing for 7 years now. Well, this is the 7th or 8th season that we will have had it to that rule set. And at the time, of course, we were waving goodbye to the GTC category in the ELMS, and this was then the new home for GT3 cars.
Engines far up, and that is 240 Nismo cylinders.
Start of the formation lap, start of the formation lap.
We'll be away in just a few moments' time. Announced earlier this week that the next generation of LMP3 cars will be powered by a turbo V6 produced by Orica. Orica, of course, their main base, their headquarters, based just over the back fence here at Paul Ricard. They build the powertrains for all this current generation of LMP3 and will continue to do so into the next generation, succeed these cars in a couple of 3 years' time. Different soundtrack to the Michelin Le Mans Cup and to other endurance races worldwide, when the 5.6 litre Nissan V8 is retired.
Okay, reminder to all teams, expecting all cars in grid formation exiting turn 10.
Turn 10 is the second part of the Double Droite de Beausset, so the double right, named after the nearby town, and well, by about 10, probably turn 11, the grid formation needs to really start to show a sign of emerging. If we do get a safety car, the lights will be turned out at turn 10 on that safety car. But because I've been doing so much focusing in on Le Mans and also the World Endurance Championship in the intervening 3 months, I have to remind myself that the rule about safety cars and full course yellows is not carried in this race. So if we get a safety car, pit lane entry remains open throughout. Full course yellow, pit lane entry remains open throughout. You don't have the automatic closure of pit lane as we do in the World Endurance Championship and indeed in tomorrow's ELMS race. Slightly less complicated, therefore. You get a good opportunity of getting in and taking a bonus of a pit stop whilst everyone's doing 80 kilometres per hour, as they will be under a full course yellow.
Great overview there of the sector 3 rather of Paul Ricard, and the grey kind of roofs you could see there in the middle of the picture. That's one of the car parks here now, with the canopies provided by, there you go, an array of solar cells that power part of this facility. Really clever use of the
Reminder, exit T10, all cars in grid formation. Exit T10, all cars in grid formation.
That's actually adopted in a number of places nearby these days as well, but I wouldn't be surprised if Paul Ricard was one of the bellwether venues to do that, and really starting to plough their own
Please close these
furrow.
gaps, close these gaps.
But if you're parking a car all day in 35 degrees Celsius heat, you definitely want some shelter, and then why not use that surface to generate some energy at the same time? So Hiroshi Hamaguchi starting from pole position in the GT3s, ahead of Arnold Robin, Gabriel Rindone. Tim Kresick in the championship leading HCR with Caffeine 6 Porsche. Here's the grid starting to form up then. It is Julien Omrion and Julien Gerby who lead the championship in LMP3 by only 4 points ahead of Fabien Michel and his teammate Kirill Smal. What a wonderful view the drone is providing though. And it's very easy to get hypnotised with the various states of friction of the runoff with the blue and the red striping. And peeling off to driver's right via the relatively new pit lane entry, but a much better one than the previous, goes the lead car now to head into its cubbyhole where it will become the safety car from this point. And the pace needs to now be dictated by Adrian Schiller for Cool Racing after a superb lap as the bronze-rated driver earlier on. And after a long wait since Le Mans last month, we are now racing again in the Michelin Le Mans Cup for the 4th time this year for this event at Le Castellet. 1 hour and 50 minutes of racing. It's a good getaway from that pole sitter of Adrian Schiller, but everybody else arm wrestling their way through the first corner. In fact, one of the Inter-Europol competition cars that's the straight line, and there are a few others as well following suit. So that was Ben Stone, I think, taking cup recovery off at turns 1 and 2, and then on down towards 3 grand.
Yeah, at least 2 or 3 cars off track and stationary at turn 1, and another 2 cars, 3 cars off there. This is the T2 by Hegeli Motorsport car that rejoins. I think that's one of the Cool Racing car. It is. It's also off there, but a couple of cars in trouble, and one of them is the 83 car. There, of course, Charles-Henri Samani.
Safety car deployed. Safety car
deployed.
deployed.
Deployed immediately. And that was all a bit unnecessary at turn 1. Seemed that the first 2/3 of the field had made their way through. Also off is the 68 car, that's the M Racing Ligier. So first parts of this grid, Johnny, seemed to get through with no real problems.
Yeah, there was the sort of explosion from the 4th and 5th row as cars got a slightly better run and saw that the race was underway, but then much further back.
It was a hit between, to the rear of one of the Inter-Europol cars. Charles-Henri Samani spun in sympathy.
Reminder, we are under safety car, no overtaking.
So the first of our cautions, and you reckon it's the Hegeli car that got a biff from behind?
I think it was the Inter-Europol car.
The Inter-Europol car went straight on. And
no, there's another Inter-Europol car that got biffed, I think, by the M Racing car.
Okay. Let's have a look for the Ferrari of Charles-Henri Samani. He just got a bit of a squeeze.
He got squeezed by the 70 car, and then he drove into, if you like, one of the Team Parker cars. I think if you watch over to the right-hand side of this view, you'll see one of the Inter-Europol cars take a hit into turn 1. Can't see it. It's coming by the...
It turned left all of a sudden, and yeah, it's definitely in the wall with, as you say, the Hegeli by T2 Racing car, no problem. But there were 3 straight lining the Verreries bend, and still spinning on drivers left is the second of the Inter-Europol competition cars.
Yeah, I think it was the 68 car that hit it.
So that has to be Chris Short.
Yeah.
Samani we've mentioned, does that mean, well, the 68 car we've talked about as well,
I think he hit the back of the 15 car. I think that's what happened there.
So M Racing not slowing sufficiently before colliding with the back of the Inter-Europol competition car of Chris Short, who did appear, although I've not had a fully conclusive angle yet, appeared to be the innocent party there. Unless, of course, Miguel Cristofan may well arguably break too early for me.
Yeah, he has continued, Chris Short, so he has continued here, and as has Charles-Henri Samani, the car that's in seemingly terminal trouble, or is it? Is he going to be able to restart this? He might. It's going to be the 68. I think we're going to get them all back underway, you know.
So Miguel Cristofan was not necessarily turned heavily into the wall. I actually thought Chris Short had made contact with the Armco barrier, pretty much putting the 15 car out of the race, but maybe he missed the majority of that. It might have been a slight scrape down the metal, but it was arriving still into turn 1 at high speed, just backwards for Chris Short.
It was 3 separate incidents, wasn't it? It was the incident to the outside with the 2 LMP3 cars. It was the incident with Charles-Henri Samani, and it was, I think, the other 3 cars just being squeezed.
Safety car in this lap, safety car in this lap.
Well, I'm amazed that we can actually go racing so quickly. Chris Short and Miguel Cristobal starting one in front of the other on the 10th and 11th rows, so that fits perfectly. And then, yeah, Charles-Henri Zamani starting the number 83, Ferrari 296 from 34th position, so the other side of the grid, but he was getting a bit of a pincer movement from the
70. It was 70. It was the Lamborghini
of Gerhard Watzinger. It was certainly the right colour scheme for that, from Lippert Motorsport, the red car.
and then hit one of the Team Parker colours in the avoidance.
Possibly
Back
Charles
to green.
Bateman.
Reminder,
Case,
no
in the
overtake
64.
before the line.
Just looking at the grid sheet, but we will go racing again after maybe just under 5 minutes of safety car, which now peels off, and across the line with those safety car procedures, of course, now under investigation. That is par for the course. But what about Adrian Schiller? He set a very good speed in qualifying earlier on. He'll now really be looking to try and check out from Matthias Luton. But Luton, the reverse side from the MV2S Racing pilot, is that he wants to stick with the race leader for as long as possible. Shahan Sarkisian in the CD Sport number 11 car will definitely be trying to stay with that leading duo as well. The Lebanese driver sharing with Franck Chapard from France. And now the number 4 of Nielsen Racing running wide. That car restarting in 10th position for John Melson. And he overcooked turn 3 a little bit, but didn't take to the prescribed exit road. So that might be looked at as well for John Melson, unless he only ran briefly off the road and therefore was able to rejoin in a safe manner. It's very easy to shortcut turns 3 and 4 and gain an advantage as a result. So there's deliberately now an escape route that you have to take to and stay the left-hand side of some bollards that have been put down there. Melson straight back into a fight with a Team Virage car. That's likely to be, and is, Oscar Bitar in the number 59 car from Virage.
So already we're getting into slipstream time on the Mistral Straight. Cars beginning to bunch up again after a much better behaved restart under the safety car. And the M Racing car, Miguel Cristobal, by the way, has pitted.
Yeah, perhaps not a surprise, but has it done? It's already a lap down, so I don't think it completed another lap, did it?
No, it didn't.
To get into the pits.
Yeah, indeed.
How did he get into the pits, in fact?
He drove back round.
Okay,
so
he has done a racing lap.
Yes, he has.
Under the safety car, but that may well be the only lap we see from the M Racing car. Let's hope they can fix it, number 68, but there's clearly some now damage to that car after quite a hard hit to the back of Chris Short's machine.
The M Racing team, of course, Yvonne Muller and his good lady on that squad, together with the able assistance of their dog, Norma. Yes, Norma. And yes, that's why.
Fair enough. Nicely explained. Arnold Robin leading in the GT3 category already over Gabriel Rindone. So Hiroshi Hamaguchi has lost 3 places in the pole-sitting Iron Lynx Lamborghini.
Rather neatly, by the way, is just ahead of the team's LMP3 car, 24th and 25th. Christian Gysi is just behind Arnold Robin for the moment. That won't be for long, I'm sure.
So it's a new nose for Miguel Cristobal's car, but this is encouraging from M Racing that they don't think they're quite done. It'll also be a replacement front right tyre, probably down to the canvas, or at least very unevenly worn because of that sliding moment. And that'll be a concern for Chris Short, I would think, as well. And he may well be in radio contact with the team, reporting back how badly damaged or how badly running the number 15 car is, but he is gaining spots. They're GT3 spots, but nevertheless the LMP3 car is working its way the right way up the order.
Yeah, up to 38th from 40th after the restart for Chris Short. So it is cool racing. Adrian Schiller pulling away a little, 1.6 seconds to the good from Matthias Lerton and Shahan Sarkisian. Teddy Wells 4th, Alexander Bekantsov 5th. Fabien Michel completes the top 6.
So Schiller building a lead, 2 seconds over Matthias Luton for MV2S Racing. Tony Wells there or thereabouts, having qualified in 6th place, so he's actually gained a couple of spots in the number 7 car, now running 4th ahead of Alexander Bukantsov of the UAE. and Fabian Michal taking the opening stint for CD Sport car number 2.
Battles as well in GT3, just saw the two GMB Motorsport Hondas battling away with the 51 Ferrari. Good to see that car in the race. With a whoopsie in the paddock, rather on the way back to the paddock after qualifying, 51. But all is well.
Very important to know the turning circle of these new GT3 cars.
68 rejoins Hamilton's left down on pit lane, and trouble for the number 4 car from Nielsen Racing. That is John Melson. The car's been turned around. Did he jump or was he pushed? At least one car off in avoidance there. So that's going to be up the inside. It's the classic thing there. Damage as well. I think that's a dive plane for the Graf car. 39 was it?
Yep. James Swetnam, I assume, starting the car and has lost a little bit of ground as a result. Swetnam, though, with some good form already this year, with a pole position to his name.
And the flag still at turn 6. I think the car has got away. That might just be debris.
Well, there is a bollard there, which has already gone for a Burton at least once today. And now a move from a long way back. This is a Ferrari 296, the 51 car on the Honda NSX car 55. So that's Thomas Anderson being overtaken by Hiroshi Koizumi in the 51 Ferrari, now up to 6th place.
Correct, yeah. Clear in the lead though, Adrian Chiller not pulling away that much, and that's come courtesy of, look, let's turn around, fastest lap of the race in fact from Matthias Lurton. He's just 1.5 seconds back at 1:54.337 for the German. Picked up, and we'll see Matthias, one of a number of drivers in this race we'll see tomorrow in the 4 hours of Paul Ricard, and 2 of the European Le Mans Series. Oh,
CD Sport locking up just ahead of Tony Wells, so that was Shahan Sharkissian with a moment. It lost him time, clearly, but Wells wasn't close enough to pounce. Instead, he's got his arms full with Alexander Bukantsov in the best place Duquesne so far, the number 3 DKR Engineering offering, the typical livery from the Luxembourgish squad as well, the orange and the black. So running in 5th place, just ahead of the 2nd CD Sport car, Fabien Michal in 6th place. So very similar paint schemes on both of those cars run out of Spain. As the LMP3's just hit quite a big dip there on the Mistral straight. The cars really bump their way from one bit of asphalt perhaps to the next.
To look at it in many ways, you'd think this was a completely pancake flat circuit. It isn't.
No.
There's a big crest over the start-finish line, as was seen famously in a bit of a start line. Oh, there's contact there with the bollard from the 55 car.
And possibly a little bit more than just the bollard that time. I thought there was some shards of either NSX or the car that it's battling with, the Lamborghini.
So look, and I think you're right.
Yeah, well, maybe it's just the bollard that is now breaking up, because it's only made of plastic and it's been whacked on several occasions through the course of the day. So it might be time to source a new bollard for tomorrow's 4-hour ELMS race.
If you're a bollard and this footage is affecting you, there is a helpline.
I'm sure there is, yeah. And yeah, it'll be straight to that just as soon as this race is done. But there's now no excuse to not shortcut turn 5. No, of course there is, because the marshals and race direction will be paying close attention to anybody jumping over the curbs there. But it does mean that you're not going to have to charge that bollard out of the way before you do so. And as long as you're keeping 2 Michelin tyres on the track surface and the right side of the white line, that is okay. But it's always a classic point for potential contact. Turn 5, and then at the other end of the circuit, turn 14, where someone trying to shallow out the line on the entry can very easily T-bone a fellow competitor.
It's the 2nd consecutive fastest lap of the race for Matthias Lurton. He closes that gap to 1.1 seconds for the lead now. Adrian Chiller being reeled back in.
And Shahan Sarkissian looking to try and make a break in the 3rd place car. This is all playing nicely into his lap, because Tony Wells having to defend Alexander Bukantsov, who now goes high and wide and around the outside at senior corner. I think he just about got the overtake done before the turning point, but the 3 car is now in front of the Tony Wells driven car, the man from Middlesbrough originally, and no longer with the with Colin Noble and instead sharing with Josh Skelton this year.
It's all down to all sorts of shenanigans to driver rankings and ratings. 55 and 70 still continue their little battle. Oh, the young man you saw there in the cap standing in Murphy Prototypes has a pretty unique part in sports car racing, by the way. I think is Sean Thompson, one of the Thompson brothers that developed a car called the TMC Costume, which became, or the chassis became, the basis for the very first panels.
Okay, well that's a claim to fame.
Isn't it just?
And clearly a very good platform to begin that major project upon. Meanwhile, Bukatsov in a sort of Panos livery, if you like, the orange certainly, and a little bit of black as well for DKR, but it's side by side behind Tony Wells to the high side, and this on the attack, it's the Virage car of Oscar Bitar. No, Julien Gerby, I should say. Bitar a few cars back, so Gerby up the inside of Tony Wells and gets the place. And the next car in the sequence, Fabien Michal in the number 2 CD Sport car. There he is.
Yep, so already getting down to business here. 15 minutes done. More to come. An hour and 34 minutes still remaining. These incidents at the start of the race under investigation. We'll wait to see the way that's seen by race control. Then we are back to 42 cars running, albeit with the M Racing Ligier 3 laps down. Going to spend 3.5 minutes on pit lane and a slow in lap from Miguel Christopher. 2 Lamborghinis lapping together. This is allowing to get away with his advantage. About 5 seconds over Gabriele Rindoni, who's got Hiroshi Hamaguchi filling his mirrors. 4th in the class, by the way, is Tim Kresick.
For HCR with Caffeine 6. So
high-class racing run car.
Aston Martin from these 2 Huracan Evo 2s, and then you've got the HCR Porsche,
which is there, just coming under the bridge now.
So that is the car from last year, rather than being the brand new GT3 car, of which we've only got one here this weekend, the Team Parker number 80. So the other cars are the 4-litre flat-six powered cars that we've seen for a number of years, and massive success from that Porsche customer car. Very sideways indeed for the second place Leipert car of Gabriele Rindoni. And was this the same lap then with the 63 car ran out wide? Yeah, so we've missed the almost half spin from Rindoni, and that's really brought the Leipert Motorsport Lambo second in GT3, closer to the Iron Lynx car of Hiroshi Hamaguchi. Hamaguchi with some recovery to do. Bear in mind, he started from pole, he's lost a couple of spots, but if he keeps it on the straight and narrow, and there are a few more mistakes from Gabriele Rindoni, it'll mean the Japanese could sneak back into second position. The problem now, though, for Hiroshi is that there are a couple of LMP3 cars in between him and the Huracan he's chasing.
Yeah, it's getting very busy indeed, isn't it? Battles between the LMP3s, getting in between the battles between the GT3s as they make their way up and, they hope, out of this melee. That's John Melson. See Pamo in the middle there with the Rinaldi racing car. Is that Miguel Christopher? It is laps down amongst that one too.
Yeah, so at least the car is still able to race. It's unlikely to get a very good result now, but it's some good track time nevertheless for the 68 crew to continue to push on. It should mean that Sasha Lehmann will get a drive as well as the silver-rated second driver.
The fastest lap of the race this time goes to Shahan Sarkisian in 3rd place. So he's hanging on in there. He's just under 2 seconds back from Matthias Lurton, who's 1.1 seconds back from the leader, Adrian Chiller. Chiller, literally as I say it, decides he's going to grab a headline. He goes fastest, 1:53.526. These lap times getting quicker.
Underneath the clock they go with the readout of the current temperature as well. It's been a warm day throughout. Next to no chance of rainfall for the rest of today and indeed tomorrow. So if you were looking to try and hope that weather might jump in to affect your strategy and give you a slightly better result at the end of it, well, forget it here in the south of France. It is July at the end of the day, and some of the warmest holiday months that this part of the world receives. As the Frickadelli racing car will head across the line, driven by Klaus Aberlan, one of the main, well, the main man in terms of how the team is organised. Oversaw that victory earlier on in the year at the Nürburgring, 24 hours for the brand new Ferrari 296, and Aberlan all over the road. Klaus sharing, in fact, with one of the drivers that took that victory, Felipe Fernandez-Laza, later on.
Clattered the curbs, that didn't help him. James Dayson sticking right with him, going by to the outside, takes the position. The Racing Spirit Le Mans Ligier that we saw behind the leader in GT3 just a few minutes ago has made up ground and positions. It is going to be drive-through penalties for car 83, that's Charles-Henri Somani, and car 68, that is Miguel Cristofo, for causing collisions at the start. Two separate incidents, but the 83 and the 68 will be coming down pit lane.
Yeah, and I don't think there can be any complaints about that. The 68 car misjudging that moment into the first corner, and yeah, resulting contact which cleaned out the Inter-Europol competition car of Chris Short. There was a spin for Gerhard Watzinger at the start of the previous lap as well, meaning that the two GT3 cars immediately behind the number 70 Lippert entry had to take to that bit of track just off the track to drivers left there, but good avoidance action. So the 70 car, that was probably then Lars Engelbrecht Pedersen and Charles-Henri Somani, who's had one heck of a race already. 83 Ferrari facing the wrong way at the start, and very nearly a head-on crash then with the Gerhard Watzinger Lamborghini.
Yeah, did well and was lucky to avoid significant contact there. The 83 car continues, will be seeing us down pit lane shortly for a drive-through penalty. Meantime, Short gets a warning flag for abuse of track limits. That's very early on to get that far. And there could be trouble ahead as well for Murphy Prototypes. Car 48 is under investigation for not respecting the race director's instructions at turn 2. There would have been a running straight on and going the wrong side of the bollard, I'm sure.
Second place fight. These Lamborghinis are being drawn together. Gabriele Rindone making the odd error here and there. Hiroshi Hamaguchi being very neat and tidy indeed. I wondered for a moment whether he could actually allow the Inter-Europol competition car to provide the gap in a couple of corners' time on the 19. And if Rindone gets out of the way of the chasing Inter-Europol competition car, and then the gap he can make use of. That's Chris Short recovering the situation with the spin at the start of the race.
Yeah, that was a brief look at Cummins 83. Of course, a quick look there at Vonson Abril, Vince, Vinny, the VMAX. None of those would adequately describe him. Vonson looking forward, I'm sure, to getting aboard the Iron Lynx car and doing battle. Hiroshi Hamaguchi, though, they have a blinder right now, side by side with the recovering 13 car.
So Rindone to the right of your picture with the Italian flag down the central bit of the nose of that car, whereas Iron Lynx adopting a much more simple all-green livery. And the 63 car doing the chasing on Lippert as we speak. Lippert were a bit wide there, Rindone, but even wider as Chris Short was trying to get through.
Almost lost the rear end there, Hamaguchi. Cost him a lot of time. He ducked out that one to allow the 13 car not to get involved in. I think he tried to let 13 through and just overcut it slightly, but has lost him ground to Rindone.
Well, Rindone was having his own moment, so it might be that the gap is about the same once all that weaves in. Now, the 51 car, having got in front of Thomas Anderson not too long ago, Hiroshi Koizumi is now reeling in Charles Bateman for 5th position in class in the Team Parker racing car. This is the older of the two Porsches that Parker have here this weekend. And that classic battle, Porsche versus Ferrari, but of different GT3 vintages. The brand new offering from Maranello, chasing the slightly older German car.
A stop and go penalty, by the way, for car 39 for that contact we saw. That was, I'm trying to recall which car that was, it was John Melson, wasn't it? The Nielsen racing car, so it's going to stop and go for 39 Graf Racing machine. And that car currently in 12 positions, that's going to cost them dearly.
So Hiroshi Koizumi, the man from Kanagawa, Japan, who ventures into the Le Mans Cup for the second year in a row, actually, with formerly some Formula 3 Japan experience, and has raced in Super GT at GT3 level as well. But clearly likes his time behind the wheel of a GT3 car in this championship back full time.
Yeah, I bumped into him after the Barcelona race with Kay Cosolino, who we'll see aboard that car later, and absolutely loved it. Loving it, loves the new car, loving this championship, enjoying his time in Europe, and that's what it's all about, Johnny.
Totally, and looking for a way by the Charles Bateman-driven Team Parker Racing Porsche at the earliest possible moment. Cosolino to come then in the second phase of the race. But if you've started with your bronze driver, which pretty much everybody has, you'll be looking to try and get them out probably not much more than 45 minutes in, because that's the minimum drive necessary. And if teams around you start to exchange for silver or gold drivers, you can't then really get caught napping. At least there's no chance of you getting locked out of the pits, though, if there is a full course yellow or, yet worse, a safety car. We've already had one of those, but thankfully it lasted less than 5 minutes to clear up quite a lot of carnage on the start-finish straight. And we have had James Swetnam in. Oh, that was to serve the penalty, wasn't it?
That was the penalty. It's dropped the car down from 12th. I'm just looking for confirmation. He has emerged back in 20th position. So it's cost him, at this point, a shot at top 10.
Yeah.
Still this battle between the 64 and the 51. 51, of course, is brand new Ferrari 296 GT3, another car that was built just at the back end of this circuit at Oreca.
True, yes.
Very much Ferrari designed car, assembled by Oreca. Will eventually be in a brand new factory. That facility not quite ready yet, but with a massive backlog of orders for this car. The turbo V6 powered 296 GT3. Well over 200 cars ordered. The last time I asked him, that was months ago. He ordered one today with absolutely no credit whatsoever from Ferrari, and it's going to be 4 years before you see your new car. So that's the drive-through penalty for car 39, but he's already taken that.
Meanwhile, Alexander Bukantsov chasing one of the GT3 296s elsewhere, so that is the sister car effectively at AF Corsa, number 83 for Charles-Henri Samani, and as long as that guy Bukantsov can get by, that will cost him as little time as possible. Back to this chasing duo of Tony Wells and Fabien Michal for Nielsen and CD Sport respectively.
And this is going to be important with the bronze drivers to stay in the fight, hand over their cars in good order to the pro drivers still to come. This is a crucial part of the ebb and flow of these races, Johnny. At the moment we've got the top, let's have a quick look, top 8 cars within 15 seconds, and a bit of a gap to Alden Gudmundsson. He's there in 9th, 21 seconds off the lead.
Charles-Henri Samani just drifting across towards the direction of Tony Wells there. Wells needed to be mindful of that and maybe get on the anchors a little earlier, as Samani was in the middle of the road rather than being fully aware that he was about to be lapped by a couple of the quicker LMP3 cars. But they survived that moment. Lights now flashing for Fabien Michal in the CD Sport car, running in 7th position. So Julien Gerby had been making early progress. He's now got in front of Alexander Bukantsov that we reported upon. But this is the dice that we are focusing in on at the moment for the top 6 places.
I'm going to correct myself. I've been reminded by both Jeff Carter, who's the Michelin Le Mans Cup press officer, and also by Stephen Kilby, my colleague at Daily Sports Car. I thought the capture was wrong. I should have known better. It is a second drive-through for the 39. The second one is for causing a collision at turn 6. That's the thing we saw. The first was a carryover penalty from Road to Le Mans.
Okay.
So they were dealt a penalty post-race and carried that over to the next race, which is this one.
Yeah. So that was in the second of the 2 Road to Le Mans races?
That would have been in the second of the 2 Road to Le Mans races. Don't ask me what it's for, because I can't remember.
Well, embarrassingly, I watched that race last night when I was trying to catch up because...
You shouldn't be that embarrassed. It was quite a good race.
No, but I now can't remember. I can't remember what the penalty was for. And I've watched it last night, whereas you're trying to track back several weeks.
So James Swetnam is on pit lane for his drive-through. Into Europol, Ben Stone is in. And that's too early. That is too early. So Adrian Chiller, meanwhile, carries on, is beginning to extend a bit of an advantage here, including through traffic. He's nearly 4 seconds to good now from Matthias Lurton. Charles-Henri Sommeny, by the way, had served that drive-through and has taken a place in GT3. He's gone ahead of James Wood in the Stella Motorsport Audi 42 car. Stellan Fielding still to come in that car. So whatever the issue was, maybe that was just something of afters from that start. The lap 1 whoopsie. And we've got potentially further trouble for the 83, car 64 as well. Saw 55 recovering from that, but did well to keep that sort of on the island.
Thomas Anderson, great car control that, a bit of Danish drift, you might call it. And he got it back onto the straight and narrow. GMB Motorsport, who are a team to be reckoned with in GTE rules racing now, but you can't race Honda NSXs in the GT class in the World Endurance Championship or the ELMS. Exactly, yet. So there is scope for even an Acura NSX, as they're called elsewhere in the world, to be dovetailed into a Honda programme. Tony Wells versus the CD Sport car of Fabien Michal, and Michal to the outside line of the S-bend at Verrerie, and he got the inside line through turn 2 and takes the position away from the Middlesbrough man. So CD Sport up to 6th place.
So shape of this race developing nicely. And despite the shenanigans at the start of the race, it's been pretty calm.
Well, okay. Interesting description of calm, but I think compared to Barcelona, I would agree. But it was a pretty low bar from the Spanish round after so much incident in that opening hour. Maybe there was some suggestion in the driver's briefing that people just need to calm down a little bit in the early stages of a championship. Often the races at Portimao are off the scale because there are championships to be decided. But this early on, you can afford to ease it back a little bit, considering the length of these races and the length of the season.
With thanks again to Stephen Kilby in the press room, James Swetnam's penalty was for overtaking car number 66 under a slow zone. At Marshall's post 30. Hang on a sec.
Whilst you continue to read about that, the decision between car 48 and 6 is going to be no further action. So that's the ANS Motorsport car of Jonathan Brossart and the 48 for Murphy Prototypes and Adrian Watt, who has started that car. 48, let's just check on those starting drivers. Yes, it is Adrian in for the opening 45 minutes and possibly a bit more.
Lots of no further actions, by the way. It is, though, 10 seconds added to the next pit stop for car... Which one was that one? 88.
88.
For not obeying the race director's instructions. These guys really should listen in driver's briefing. Finally can say the 39's first drive-through was for causing a collision with car number 12 at Le Mans under slow zone procedures. It was a stop and go. The next race the driver would take part in, and withdrawal of 2 penalty points from the licence. That's why. So it's effectively just tidying up the end box for race control. Thanks for that, Stephen.
Car 12, an extra entry for Racing Spirit of Le Mans that we don't have racing this weekend, but for Jacques Wolf and Antoine Ducas. And now there's a car absolutely shredding tyre bits there, which was an Inter-Europol competition machine. Also a bullet trailing loose on the 97 Cool Racing car. 97 is quite a way further down.
That car is 14th, and it's Louis Andron.
Right. So it was, well, I don't know in respect to that where the Inter-Europol competition car was that I just spotted at the end of the Mistral, but that's got to be going slowly now because it was chewing through a rear right tyre. This, now that the end of the Mistral could well be littered with an extra bit of tyre pickup. Yeah, it's been chucked up into the air because it's been laid down onto the track surface. Unfortunately, there are several Inter-Europol competition cars in this race, so it's difficult to pick specifically which one it was at, but there's now a message on our screen to warn everybody in the race that there's debris right in the middle of the track on the racing line on the Mistral straight.
Yeah, not a nice place either, just the point at which you're determining what is the optimum line into and through Seine corner.
Here's a thought. Could it be Chris Short after his moment at the start of the race? Because I did describe how sideways that car was. It's not Chris Short, it's the 13 car. So that doesn't make any sense whatsoever, because I think Ben's had a relatively clean race up till this point, other than going straight on at the first corner on the first lap. So whether he picked up some debris then, or we have had cars getting together since then, and maybe he ran over something.
There's no urgency being employed here at all.
The first thing is checking the tyre. The tyre's off the car.
That's a new tyre being rolled to the car.
Yeah, but they're checking the one they've just taken off to see how badly damaged it is and whether that's a tyre failure or whether
indicates it may be something deeper in the suspension.
Maybe suspension's gone, but from that angle, I mean, your guess is as good as mine. But there was an official on the scene to try and work out what the next step of procedure should be. Second, third and fourth, very close to one another. Matthias Luton for MV2S Racing from Shahan Sarkisian, and Julien Gerby, who is the man on the move and looking for a way by in car 16.
That was him going by Jerry Crouch on a lap on the number 22 car.
But is that not Sarkisian behind now? Yes, it is. Yes. So the 16's got third position. All
three of these cars going through to put a lap on the 22. So Leuten, Sarkisian and Julien Gerby. Full course yellow is coming at 17:47. That's in 40 seconds. That will be to clear that debris.
No doubt. And that will provide, well, I was about to say an ideal point to pit, but we haven't had 45 minutes yet, so there'd be no point really in pitting unless you want to take a bit of fuel on board. There's nothing to prevent you from making a stop, but you'd have to keep your driver on board.
This is the damage to the rear of that number 13 car, and that's the, I'm sure, the metal banding from the tyre wrapped itself around drive shaft, brakes, suspension, and you can see the damage to the rear of the car in that shot.
3, 2, 1. Full course yellow is deployed. Full course yellow is deployed.
So this full course yellow will actually help into Europole competition, but actually away from your screen, the signal from the team is that we're pretty much done here because there's so much banding that has worked its way around.
This is the attempt at clearing it up, but
no. A few moments ago, mechanics saying there's too much to do here. And we're hemorrhaging time regarding everybody else's pace.
That was the debris being run over by following cars, but the issue had already happened, hadn't it? Tyres gone, delaminated by the look of it.
Quite what the cause was, Michelin will have to interrogate that, but as I say, it's not exactly been a contact-less race to this point, so it could be a bit of carbon fibre or bodywork that has found its way out onto track, or it could be, you know, that run off at turn 1 that Ben Stone had, and maybe he picked up a stone that's worked its way into the tread of the tyre. Very difficult to tell from this distance and how long that's been a problem for. But then Ben maybe needed to ease off a little bit more. It was very difficult to tell how badly the tyre had delaminated as it appeared at the end of this straight, because we cut to another shot rather quickly. But often the trick is finding that fine bit of judgment between going quick enough to not lose too much time, but don't zoom back to the pits, because you'll do horrendous damage to the rest of the car. And it did start to chew away at the bodywork.
So under full course yellow, I don't think it would be very long, by the way. Adrian Chiller leads this race by 11.7 seconds in his number 87 Cool Racing Ligier. From the MV2S number 29 Ligier, Matthias Leuten. Further 3.2 seconds back is the number 16 Team Vantage Ligier of Julien Gerby. And Shahan Sarkisian is the third in a tight-knit group. Here's CD Sport number 11 Ligier. He's just under a second back from Gerby. Alexander Bukantsov, the first of the Duquesnes, number 3 Decar Engineering Duquesne. That's in 5th place. He's 7.8 seconds back from that battling group, with Fabien Michel right on his tail in the second CD Sport car, the number 2 car. He's 6th in the number 2 Ligier. Nielsen Racing's Tony Wells, the number 7 Ligier, has dropped back a couple of seconds since ceding that position to CD Sports. And then the 59 Team Virage Ligier of Oscar Bitter, 5.6 seconds back. And then quite a long gap to the 360 Racing number 26 car, Terence Woodward. He's 22 seconds back, completed the top 10. Another Ligier, this time it is the number 77 Team Tour car, Arden Gudmundsson. And he's a further 5.4 seconds back in 10th place. In GT3, it is the lead at the moment, 27th place overall for Arnaud Robin. He's led almost from the start here in the number 10 Racing Spirit of Le Mans Aston Martin. He's 3.1 seconds the good of Gabriele Rindoni in the Lippert Motorsport number 19 Lamborghini. It's another Lamborghini third. That's the 63 Iron Lynx car of Hiroshi Hamaguchi. He's a further 2 seconds back. Then Tim Kresick in the HCR with Caffeine 6 number, is that the 86? It is the 86 Porsche. He's a further a chunk back, I think, 17 seconds back. And then Hiroshi Kazumi in the 51 Ferrari is a further 17 seconds back in 5th place. The Team Parker Racing 64 Porsche, the 2 GMB Motorsport Hondas, Lippert Motorsport 2nd Lamborghini, and the 83 Ferrari, the 18 Team Parker car, and the Stella Audi complete the order in GT3.
So there you go, and we're still 5 minutes away from the pit lane effectively opening. There is no pit stop window, but it's judged by drive time minimums, and whether you're a bronze, a silver, or indeed a gold, you have to do a minimum of 45 minutes. So if this clear-up process continues for much longer, definitely going to start to see cars ducking in at the earliest possible opportunity, because you gain so much time. Bear in mind, it's a pit stop that's happening whilst everybody else on the main racetrack is doing 80 kilometres per hour, the full course yellow speed. This is like a virtual safety car in Formula One, without needing to put a safety car out on track and without actually condensing the gaps. So the gaps should be the same coming out of the caution as they were going into it. But in another 4 minutes...
At 17:52:30, we will remove full course yellow. In less than 30 seconds, we will remove full course yellow.
That is 30 seconds from now, and therefore will not help at all in the pit stop, because you've got to keep going for at least another 4 minutes or so.
Absolutely. One quick fun fact again from our friend Mr. Kilby in the media room. Miguel Cristofo, who hit
10,
the
9,
number 15,
8,
wasn't it?
7, 6,
Europol car at the start of the race.
5,
Drives here
4,
in Europol in
3,
the European Le Mans Series.
2,
Oh
1, full course yellow is now removed.
Going to be somewhat of some explaining to do in the intervening period.
Away we go again. The rev range rises, and 41 cars continue with the apparent retirement of the number 13 and Europol car with that delaminated tyre doing damage too much to be effectively dealt with in the race. And all of a sudden, these two Lamborghinis have caught the Aston Martin. Aston Martin is just out of that shot.
Yeah. Well, that can't have happened in the full course yellow, must not have happened in the full course yellow, but it may be that, you know, in the stages before that, as now there's a problem for the GMB Motorsport 55 of Thomas Anderson. He's had an eventful race to this point as well with the yellow door mirrors, and if that car gets stranded there for any much longer than about 60 seconds, we could very easily go into another full course yellow, which absolutely would help with the pit stop window. Zigzagging from left to right, the car's heading over the line. That's the scrap between MV2S and Virage. Just trying to pick out the numbers. Round the outside will go the 16 car of Julien Gerby, who is now ahead of Matthias Luton. So the scrap for second and third going the way of the Polish team Virage.
55 appears to have got away from the position it spun to. So that would have cost it time. It doesn't appear to have cost it a position. Well, yes, it has. It's cost it a position, Nick Jones.
And as the camera pans to the left, you're quite right. But there's a drama now for MV2S, which does no power whatsoever for Matthias Luton. So we lose one car in this part of the field, Thomas Anderson, and gain another from LMP3. What's going on? Is it the heat, I wonder? We've had a number of cars today just stopping with no explanation at all. LR Motorsport in the Ligier European Series, Ollie Jarvis in ELMS qualifying earlier on today, and now Matthias Luton, who was running in the muddy seats. He was third at the time of this mechanical drama.
I'd been running second prior to, it was just behind that group, wasn't it, the 55 car. but had been running second for much of this race. 55 car comes in now, but that's still too early.
Yeah, we've not got 45 minutes on the clock yet, but they're deciding to fuel it. It can't be out of fuel, surely.
It can't be out of fuel.
So these cars...
driver was asking whether or not they should be making the driver change. He can't yet. It's a minute early.
Yeah.
This is going to be pretty much a disaster for them, because remember, the main stop is a timed stop. I wonder if he's got fuel starvation problems in this heat.
Could be, yeah, or a fuel pump issue perhaps. Checking again the 2023 sporting regulations, and much further down in the document, minimum driving time for a driver in the race is 45 minutes. They've come in a minute or so early at GMB Motorsport. So I'm expecting a flurry in the next 20-odd minutes, unless, of course, certain teams are banking on another full course yellow. Might not be too bad a guess, actually, because of the warmth of the day. And these cars are getting pretty tired even before they've got to an hour into the distance. Oh, sideways for the number 2 car from CD Sport. That was Fabien Michel, very nearly cleaning out Alexander Bukatsov, and in an entirely unrelated incident. In fact, Michel's going to spin again on the escape road.
So dusty.
But it's that Graf car that's off as well. It's number...
No, that's the 360 racer. No, it's the 8 Graf car.
It's the 8 car. So that car, I don't think was involved. No, it wasn't. Bukatsov had to maybe straight line turns 3, 4 and 5, unless he went round. But yeah, the 8's got nothing to do with it. He's just having his own moment.
In front of him.
And that was George Nakas.
I hope there's not fluid down somewhere. Full course yellow will start at 17:57. Do we have fluid on the circuit?
Possibly. So, well, is the GMB Motorsport Honda leaking fuel? Perhaps did it go off on its own fluid for that spin? But now the pit stops will start in anger, because they all know there's going to be a full course yellow. The pit lane will not close under an FCY. Get the car in now. Get your pit stop done while everybody else is either stuck the wrong end of the circuit or doing 80 kilometers per hour is somebody else's spot. That is the number 9 car that rotates, and Christian Gysi, the racing spirit of Le Mans.
Going to collect it.
So trying to collect at least the 8 Graf car, and possibly Fabien Michel, who had a second spin on the escape road.
I do wonder if there's fluid down somewhere here. It's 3 cars spinning where you wouldn't really have expected it to happen.
Well, I think the CD Sport car of Fabien Michel, he rotated because he was trying to overtake Alexander Bukatsov. One of the Virage cars may well be the reason for the full course yellow, but Michel was just going for an overtake and he misjudged it and the back end stepped out. That doesn't explain what happened in the number 8 Graf car, though, for George Nakas, and indeed Christian Gysi in car number 9. It's not a moment to be in a single-digit car at the moment.
It's not at the moment, is it? Cool Racing still lead this race, but second place car, 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th have already made it to pit lane.
So Adrian Schiller is not in the pit lane and is probably circulating now. Well, he's gone past the pit lane, interestingly. So why are Cool Racing not deciding to pit? Unless he, of course, passed the pit lane entry road before the clock was reading 45 minutes.
Car 59, please instruct your driver to drive off track. Drive off track, car 59. You are putting debris everywhere.
That is the Team Virage car of Oscar Bitter. There's obviously been a problem at the rear of that car. We can see some debris next to the car, but has there been car-on-car action there?
I wonder what sort of debris is being dropped onto the track surface as well. Is it fluid, or is it actually just bits of car, or indeed bits of tyre, as the MV2S racing cars will rejoin?
Well, this could be a big shake-up in a number of ways, not least of which is the ability for teams to get the car into its designated pit stall.
Yes, very good point. But Adrian Schiller is now stuck at 80 kilometers per hour on the Mistral straight. He can see the paddock to his right-hand side. This is the same story for Shahan Sarkisian as well, but they are effectively stranded out on track, still moving, of course, at 50 miles per hour, but they want to be in the pit lane here, taking advantage of the full course yellow. Now, maybe it was because they didn't want to, but it's not as such double stacking.
Car 48 reported to the stewards for speeding in the pit lane.
That is Murphy Prototypes.
In Formula One, you have 2 cars and only 1 pit stall. Here, there is a pit stall per car, but what you don't necessarily want is 2 cars from the same team pitting on the same lap, because as you say, it gets so tight between them.
Car
you got to
83 reported to the stewards for constantly abusing track limits.
So you have to get the dolly jacks out and then realign the car. We're also hearing about brake fires in pit road. That's nothing really to worry about too much, because the brakes can take that kind of punishment. But again, an indication as to how hot it is out there.
I think we were being told that was a 70 Lamborghini.
Okay. Yeah. So
thank you very much, Steph.
The steel brakes on a GT3 car. But steel can, you know, live with a very high temperature, thousands of degrees, and I doubt the fire will be quite up to that. But might need a fire extinguisher nearby to put that out. Very well. It was an unsafe release, I would say, in front of the Aston Martin. Couldn't quite catch which car it was, but Arnold Robin is also going to have to be probably spun slightly round a few degrees via the dolly jacks as the number 10 car comes in, and it'll be Val Hasclo to take that car over.
I think that was the Team Tour car that was cutting across.
Or the one behind it.
Or the one behind it. There's a white rear end on a Ligier.
Agreed.
That appears that's the 19, I think.
Okay, take your word for that. As Graf did have 2 cars pitting
the 19,
very close to one another.
Yeah.
Now, is that the car that was shedding debris everywhere? Is that a Virage car? It is a Virage car.
That's the 59.
So that's the 59 that was being told to drive off track to make sure that not more tyre debris was laid on the race surface.
Shredded rear bodywork, and is this going to be a similar story to the Inter-Europol car? Either way, the 59 has got trouble. Here is the 87 car on pit road, and this is exactly what I was saying, Johnny. Can't get to its pit stall. They're going to have to use put that car on the dollies to get it to its fuel.
And the ANS Motorsport car had no way of getting out either, because the dollies weren't there. It had just been lowered down from the internal jack system and wanted to drive back into the race. That was Jonathan Brossard who'd handed the car over to Nicolas Schatz, the multi-French hill climb champion. But just an awkward place to be pitting at the very start of pit road. You can't really help that, because you have no real say in which garage you will be parked in front of. Remember, all the ELMS teams occupying the garages, but during this race, ELMS teams not allowed to cross the line at the front of the garage, that solid red line, and the whole of the pit working area reserved to Michelin Le Mans Cup cars. But yes, thankfully the full course yellow remains out, so Adrian Schiller and Sahan Sarkisian will be able to do their pit stops mostly on the yellow, but they are burning a bit of extra time. These are minimum reference pit stop times, by the way, 160 seconds minimum that needs to be served, and most are doing a little extra as well to that.
Just looking to see if anybody's missed that window. One of them has. It's Murphy Prototypes by a significant margin. 2:34 on pit lane. That needs better drilling from the team.
2:40 is the marker we're trying to hit, or above it.
Yeah, 2:34 is the only one I can spot that's on 2:40.
Okay, so everybody else should be in the clear, fingers crossed. It's a 2 minutes 42 for the Team Virage car of Julien Henriot. But race leaders are both currently in the pit lane. So that's Adrian Schiller, who led the race as he pitted in the number 87 Cool Racing car, and Sahan Sarkisian in the number 11 CD Sport car, the driver from Beirut. And well, where will he rejoin? That's the thing.
Well, they've just fired up the 87. The 16, sitting in third, is coming through turn 12 now. So the 2 cars in third and fourth on their outlap, and there goes the 87. That was close, and is rolling. I think will emerge still in the lead of this race.
I'm now beginning to think that the full course yellow has deliberately been kept going for a couple of laps to make sure that no advantage is gained or lost.
So here comes the 87. Where is the 16? If we get the wider shot, you'll see the 16, the yellow car further back down the road, has not yet crested the rise. There it is, and here is the 11 as well from CD Sports, and both those guys, basically order restored, isn't it?
Yeah. Which
is exactly what it should be, and both those 2 cars coming from pit lane, 2 minutes and 41 seconds, pretty much faultless.
Yeah. Now, the one I had concerns for was the ANS Motorsport machine, because that car was ready to go well before it was actually able to get out, and it's cost it probably 6 seconds. If they were aiming for a 2:41 or a 2:42, that's been a big delay in the end for Nicolas Schatz, but he couldn't do anything about it. The team to his right, 87, came in. The car was at an oblique angle, 45 degrees, and he had to wait for the team to put it up on the jollies and push it straight. So that's a shame for ANS Motorsport, just a bit of bad luck that can strike now and again.
Yeah, so with all the pit stops now more or less complete, 59 car, which is a damaged Team Ferrari car, still on pit lane. Also, Patrice Lafargue is on pit lane. Order more or less restored, but of course the big change is some of the quick guys.
18:06, less than 30 seconds, we will remove full course yellow.
So Cedric Ultramar will lead the motor race as a whole, the LMP3 field as well, of course. Cedric Ultramar stepping up from the Ligier European Series last year into Michelin Le Mans Cup, similar to Julien Henrion.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6,
5, 4, last year.
3,
P4, the
2,
dominant championship
1, full course yellow is now removed. Full course yellow is now removed.
So wherever you are around the circuit, the green LED boards will start to flash. Green flags waved by the marshals as well. And there's the countdown too from either the team manager or race direction. You'll get a repeat as well. I think most of these cars have a repeat on the dash to tell you what status the race is currently in. It will have jumped from FCY to green. Pedal down again, and we continue on lap 24 with still, well, just under an hour of this race to go. And the gap is 3.7 seconds for Cedric Ultramar, ahead of Franck Chapard in the CD Sport number 11. But Julien Henrion, you can bet your bottom dollar, is going to start to now close in on the race leader. And here is that dice, in fact, the 11 of CD Sport, ahead of Julien Henrion, moving up as the championship winner in Ligier European Series to Le Mans Cup. Let's see whether he can win this race from here.
A 10-second stop-and-go penalty for Murphy Prototypes car 48 for speeding in pit lane. Instantly, the fastest first sector of the race goes to Wayne Boyd. The 23-year-old Sports car running 12th. That's a drive-through penalty, second penalty of the race for car 83. Emerick Saloni for using track limits.
Now, an incident involving car 59, which is the one with the tyre damage, and car 22.
That is the United Autosports car.
So that is perhaps why the tyre went pop, and it's going to be a drive-through penalty for the 59 Virage.
Cherry Crown, I don't think it's Cherry Crown prize for Scott Andrews.
Okay, so yes, assuming it was done before the pit stops, and it was, so yes, Scott Andrews is now at the wheel of car 22.
James Winslow up into third place in the DKR car. All over Guillaume Henrion, because Franck Chapard has lost 2 places since we went back to green. New fastest lap of the race goes to Wayne Boyd. Will be the last, I think, in this phase of the race. So 4 seconds Ultramar from Guillaume Henrion. Racing Team Virage DKR and CD Sport. Josh Skelton pushing on as well. And all of a sudden, this race is going to get turned up to 11.
The skid plank beneath the DKR Engineering Duquesne taking a right pounding there as the car just bottomed out briefly at senior corner. It's a much better and tighter racing line from Jamie Winslow compared to Julien Henrion, the 20-year-old from Nancy. And he threads his way now out of turn 11 through the tricky right-hander at 12, which goes on and on. There, a quick glimpse of the CD Sport car of Franck Chapard. And Josh Skelton in the Nielsen Racing car now doing the chasing. Josh taking over from his teammate Tony Wells in the pit stop. Quite right to draw attention to Wayne Boyd. I think he's just done it again, hasn't he? Lap 24 is a 1:53.241 to improve again.
He's pushing on to make up lost ground, as is Colin Noble. Colin up to 8th position now. Daniel Ali. Top car, 5 seconds back from Kiel Small. After that, the gaps get smaller. It's the fastest lap of the race for Colin Noble, 1:53.0. He's 13.8 seconds from the lead. That's a time to watch. And the other one, we're talking about Wayne Boyd, was 49 seconds off the lead.
But also, Kirill Smal briefly had the fastest lap of the race, the 18-year-old, and now David Drew has just gone through to do a 152.757. Loads of messages coming through now. David Drew, you'll remember, was involved in a huge accident with Andy Merrick during the Le Mans, Road to Le Mans events. That was in the first race of the two. Black and orange flag for car 27, which is the 24/7 motorsport car, and the 15, another LMP3 for Inter-Europol competition. And that's because of the bullet, or the shoebox, as I heard it referred to this weekend. That's a new one on me. But yeah, the cheese wedge-shaped block of carbon fibre which sits behind each of the rear wheels, that needs to be intact and present on the cars at all times. So the rear wedge will have to be either repaired or refixed on both 27 and 15.
Yeah, the fastest lap's been traded, just gone to Wayne Boyd, immediately went to Matt Bell, who's way further down in the Nielsen Racing car. John Melson getting turned around early in the race in 21st place. We're going back to full course yellow.
Okay, and that is going to happen in just over 30 seconds' time.
Did I see red flag then? Did I see red flag?
Well, if you did, you shouldn't have done, because there is not a stoppage as yet. It's meant to be a full course yellow. So, you might have seen a red...
There were red lights on the country.
Okay, well, you might have seen a red cone, and I'm not saying you didn't see red lights, but they definitely should not have been
10,
there.
9,
We're counting
8,
down into a full
7,
course yellow.
6,
No sign of
5,
anybody slowing
4,
down as if they've seen
3,
that.
2, 1, full course yellow is deployed. Full course yellow is deployed.
And it would be great to get an explanation as to why we're into our third full course yellow of the race.
Turn 1, please bear right. Turn 1, please bear right.
Bear right at turn 1, and that is therefore away from the racing line. So you're going to have to take the high line through Verrerie corner.
There are red lights on the country.
No, I think they're yellows. They are amber lights, but maybe slightly skewed the colour on the through the camera. Plus, they're not facing in the direction of traffic, but normally that would repeat on both sides of the bridge.
Well, I saw us seeing it from the other side.
Okay, you did, yeah. I think it's amber, flashing amber, because you wouldn't get a flashing red light. It would be a solid red light if it was a red flag.
I can see an amber there.
Yeah, well, that's the LED board that flashes to help out with the marshals. There's also a repeater board on the bridge that crosses the Mistral Strait. So flashing amber lights, flashing LED boards, waved yellow flags, and every marshal point has an FCY board as well. And again, this has been a little bit truncated, this race, but not necessarily down to driving standards this time, but more to do with, I think the heat has got a lot to say, and also if there's a bit of tyre here and there. Two cars have had two big tyre failures, and that could well be too much curb in the early phase of the race when the tyres weren't quite in their operating window. But only one safety car to this point.
Sure, pit lane for the number 15 Inter-Europol car. So Fricadelli's in with Klaus Appelin, it still says at the wheel. That can't be right. Klaus should have got out at the midway point. 24/7 motorsport car of Louis Hamilton-Smith. We know that's for repair to the bonnet. Well, I think it will be for the 15.
Felipe Fernandez-Larza unlikely to get any championship points unless he is in the car right now, and I think we have to assume that he is, having taken over from his teammate Klaus Appelin in the number 30 Fricadelli racing car. The 15 car has damage to the floor on the rear right of the car. So
that was one of the two that were told they had to pit for the bonnet to be sorted.
Yes. So that large cheese wedge-shaped piece of bodywork, if that is absent from the car, then it has to pit because it carries a tail light. There's also a legality panel just the other side of that, inward to the car from the wedge itself. But these cars have been so prone, I suppose, to a little bit of damage, a nudge here and there, a run through the gravel, and that quickly removes one of those blocks. But you cannot, in post-race scrutineering, pass the tests unless they are both present. and it must be fixed within the race as well. Jamie Winslow having a good dice with Josh Skelton now. So we had Alexander Bukansov and Tony Wells in these cars in the opening stint, and it is the fight for third and fourth positions heading through Ferrari once again. 27 and about to be 28 laps completed in this hour and 50-minute race.
Top 8 cars within 10 seconds now. Colin Noble, the last of those. Daniel Alley is 9th position with 20 seconds max. It's the top 9 cars here contesting these podium positions. 3 and the 7 there. That was Josh Skelton tussling away with James Winslow in GT3. New car now with the 21st position. Valentin Harzaklo, head of Vincent Abril, Patrick Kajala now aboard the Lipa Motorsport car, and Abril up in 2nd place, and the Stewart back in the HCR with Cathy in 6th, Porsche in 4th, chasing hard.
Yeah, Kirill Smal is really on a tear and pushing Tommy Foster every inch of the way as well. So Foster in 6th, Smal, who'd previously set a fastest lap of the race, doing the chasing for CD Sport. And watch Colin Noble as well, getting larger in the door mirrors for these two, because Noble's just set the best lap of the race a couple of laps ago. That was lap 26.
Still catching and catching quickly.
Not surprised by that. The man from Edinburgh, a 152.2, and if he's in that ballpark with every lap, applying the pressure as the 26 car squirms and slides, and that's Tommy Foster almost fully alongside. So CD Sport about to gain a position on, is it Frank Chapard that they've just both overtaken?
So Kilian Henry under real pressure in the lead of the race, 0.28 of a second to the good from... Oh no, in fact, Kilian Henry, let's just take the lead. I apologise, it was Ultramar ahead, wasn't it? Team Ferrari had gone to the lead here.
Not surprised by that. You and I know just how highly skilled Julien Henrion is. He's only 20 years old, but a real star in the making. And Julien Henrion should now start to gap Cedric Ultramar, a driver that he will know well from the Ligier European Series from last year. Ultramar all over the blue paving there on the entry into turn 3, and they've now got, is that still no longer the 2nd place Lamborghini, it's dropped to 3rd in the hands of Patrick Kujala, because Vincent Abril has got ahead of the Finnish driver. And there's also the change there, Graham, in LMP3.
Third, Josh Skelton goes ahead of James Winslow, Tommy Foster right there behind them, Kirill Small right behind them, Frank Chapard right behind them, and Colin Noble right behind them. It is nose to tail for, what is that, 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th places at the moment.
So Colin Noble applying the vice-like grip here. He's pushing hard from 8th and actually condensing the gap from that point to the lead. It's more side-by-side action between Kirill Smal and Tommy Foster in the 360 car.
That was Josh Skelton and James Winslow switching positions again. So the Decane has clearly got good straight line speed. Foster and Smal
right behind them though, so they're about to get involved in this party as well. And the DKR car, driven by Jamie Winslow in this 2nd stint, able to get in front of, or bring Josh Skelton with him. And I would imagine that gap to Cedric Ultramar's coming down now as well. Yes, it is, because last time through, Winslow a little bit quicker than the French-Swiss driver.
17 car being pushed back to the paddock. Their day is done. Still big speed, by the way. Matt Bell making a recovery from, well, top 20-ish. 18th, but the fastest lap of the race last time around. Quick lap still coming from Wayne Boyd, who's got a big gap to close to get with this lead group. But what was 8 seconds first to 8th is now 7.4. And a lot of that is because Kilian Henrion is pulling away. You take that out of the equation, the gap to 2nd is around 6 seconds between 2nd and 8th places.
Yeah. But mightily impressive so far from the Barcelona winners. Let us not forget Julien Gerby and Julien Henrion took victory in Catalonia at the start of the season, so they have good pedigree. Cedric Ultramar about to be sucked into this fight for 3rd and 4th, so we'll have 2nd, 3rd and 4th absolutely nose to tail in a few laps, I would imagine. Jamie Winslow needs to keep his head out front and ahead of Josh Skelton. Side by side it is now between Tommy Foster and Kirill Smal. So Foster on the inside line in the dark blue colours of 360 racing, and will just about have the racing line at senior corner, but Small is trying every trick in the book. Colin Noble having to dodge to the right-hand side there of Patrick Kujala in the Lippert Motorsport Lamborghini.
Could be big drama ahead for one of the leading cars in GT3. We'd spotted the Murphy Prototypes car was under 240, so was the Iron Lynx Lamborghini, and that could be a big penalty coming away from the second place car.
So their time was a 2:39 again, and it probably is tenths of seconds. We're only shown it to, well, no decimal places effectively. It's shown as just 39 seconds, but it's point something, 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 no doubt.
Noble up to 6th place, having taken those 2 cars ahead of him. Watch the replay here. What happened here? Watch Colin Noble. That was Tommy Foster running wide, wasn't it? He's taken that car.
Yeah, so Colin Noble in the Team Tour machine that was started by Alden Gudmundsson, now working his way up the order. He didn't get by Kirill Small, but he did get by a wayward Tommy Foster, so that will give Noble 6th place. Kirill Small benefits as well, up to 5th. They're both chasing Josh Skelton, but he's a quick kid as well for Nielsen Racing. There's a second and a half between Josh and Kirill Small doing the chasing there.
Noble closing the gap, not just the car in front, but to 2nd place as well.
Yeah.
This group is condensing and condensing quickly. 40 minutes to go.
Yeah, and this will all be music to the ears of Julien Henriot, the Nancy-based driver, no longer a teenager, now into his very early 20s. 30 laps done for Julien Henriot, and it might be a 2nd win of the year already. Smiles at DKR Engineering. They're enjoying watching Jamie Winslow close the gap to Cedric Altremar. There's definitely a podium in the offering here, but Josh Skelton, Kirill Small, Colin Noble will all be trying to do their best to deny them of that fact. In GT3, it's still the same order with Valhaus Clos for Racing Spirit of Le Mans still leading Vincent Abril by 5 and a bit seconds in his Iron Lynx Huracan.
But that Iron Lynx Huracan has a potential penalty hanging over it. Could that put Lippert Motorsport up into 2nd? And where is Anders Fjordback closing on the Lippert Motorsport Lamborghini? Kei Castellino a little further back. That's going to be a big gap to close in the remaining 39 minutes.
Yeah, I think almost certainly Anders Fjordback could gain a position, because it's likely to be, if the 63 car is proved to be short of a second, as we think it is, it'll have to come into pit road, stop for a second to mop up that extra time and head back out again. But obviously you've got to negotiate the pit lane as well at 60 kilometres per hour, so it costs you a lot more than just that single second.
Times are beginning to tumble again as they get back into the racing rhythm, and all of a sudden where they were 153s, they're now 152s. It's going to make it tougher for those gaps to be bridged. Lead gap, 2.1 seconds. Julien Henriot back to Cedric Altremar. Back from there, James Winslow a further 1.1 seconds with Josh Skelton still 4 tenths behind him. Kirill Small a full second back from that. Colin Noble 8 tenths behind that. Tommy Foster now recovered to 9 tenths back from that. So the gap from 2nd to 7th is 4 seconds.
Looking out as well for Manu Collard and Brendan Leach, who are having a good dice for 9th and 10th in the GT3 category. Closed in on that a moment or two ago in the 83 Ferrari 296. So Collard taking that over from Charles-Henri Samani, and Brendan Leach replacing Gerhard Watzinger in the bright red Lamborghini Huracan. But the class still led by Valentin Pasclot, sharing with Arnold Robert, as he will be doing in the ELMS tomorrow as well. Running out wide there at turn 12 and very much short-cutting that right-hander was the 7 car of Josh Skelton to try and hold back or try and overtake Jamie Winslow, but he won't be able to take advantage, and therefore the position after being off the track for so long. And here comes Colin Noble at the inside of Kirill Small, gives him a side swipe, but in my book that was Colin Noble's corner, and out you go Kirill Small, wide at the exit of turn 14. So a rather forceful manoeuvre, but it gave Colin Noble the position.
Noble is definitely on the charge, isn't he, here? Kirill Small not liking that one little bit. But Noble has already switched his attentions to eyes forward rather than eyes back. And Josh Skelton is the next target. Skelton going to be desperate to get by James Winslow now.
Smile again, looking for a way by, and who's this joining the party? That's a recovering Tommy Foster, isn't it, in a 360 racing car? So we worried that Tommy Foster might be down and out, but after that wide track moment at Beausset, he's gathered his thoughts and is now in this freight train that involves 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cars.
Developing into being a real classic, this one, for the Michelin Le Mans Cup. Fast guys, fast cars, and proper positions to be gained.
Also, Frank Chapard and a certain Wayne Boyd is not too far away either. 8th and 9th position, so another CD Sport car in the sequence. That's the second of the red with the central yellow body strip.
Yeah,
Wayne Boyd, oh, beg your pardon, no. So who?
It's Wayne Boyd has got a big gap to
he has.
the bridge.
There's somebody with Chapard though, so that might be a car that's now gone a lap down. But Chapard 1.5 seconds back. And yeah, you're right, Wayne Boyd is a good distance away. But there's somebody on the pace that is totally confusing me, that is clearly not on the lead lap.
Keep an eye on that.
It's the 22 car.
Oh, trouble for number 2.
That was Kirill Smal, and he's jumped over the curb and very nearly ditched the rear wheels in the gravel trap there as well, and off the road also Colin Noble. I wonder whether those two are going to get back together again, because for me I thought Kirill Smal's not going to be happy about that overtake at turn 14, and has he looked to try and get back in front sooner rather than later, and the two make contact again. I'd like to see that again to be sure. The 22 car, by the way, so that's why I was confused that it was Wayne Boyd, is actually Scott Andrews on a huge recovery drive, bearing in mind the opening stint was done by Jerry Kraut. And unsurprisingly, Scott Andrews is more than on the pace with people like Frank Chapard and indeed Colin Noble.
Kirill Smal has pitted after that hit. What has happened? We're the team tour. Colin Noble drops back to 7th.
As expected, it's a 6-second stop-and-go penalty for the number 48 Murphy Prototypes car. They were 6 seconds short. Meanwhile, Kirill Smal, Colin Noble making contact into turn number 11. And that time, Kirill Smal wasn't fully alongside in order to sideswipe Colin Noble off the track. The difference for me is that the overtake that Noble performed on Smal, he was fully alongside, and that was his corner to fight for, whereas this time that was basically spinning Colin Noble out, and that will have to be looked at by race control.
That did look a little like he nailed him. A bit of red mist maybe involved there. Colin Noble, meanwhile, that's dropped him out of contention, though there's still half an hour left.
Yeah.
And Colin has his own style of red mist.
Let's just mop up the pit penalties then. It's not a surprise. Murphy Prototypes was 6 seconds short. They're going to have to come down pit road and serve a 6-second stop-and-go penalty. There was a second short for the 63 Iron Lynx Lamborghini, and that car's going to have to come in now with Vincent Abril at the wheel, but they'll have to serve a 1-second stop-and-go penalty. And now car 88's being reported to the stewards for not respecting Article 16.3.1 of the sporting regulations. I've got a copy of the sporting regulations here, so should be able to look that up reasonably easily.
Okay.
So 16.3.1 is pit lane penalty. So penalties that have to be served in the pit lane can only be done so after they've been displayed on the monitors. Furthermore, they can't be served under a full course yellow. I think the 88 car...
There is an 88 car.
The GMB Motorsport Honda NSX of Lars Engelbrecht Pedersen and Jan Magnussen, I think they've been given a penalty and they tried to serve it under the full course yellow.
I don't recall them getting a penalty.
Okay, well, they are in breach of that particular article, and there is only one 16.3.1, and that's a pit lane penalty that's been served incorrectly.
And the back gets a warning for using track limits. It is getting fast and furious stuff here, isn't it? The key now is Cedric Altremont is holding that gap, and he's, if anything, pulling away a little from James Winslow, who's still got his mirrors full of Josh Skelton. Tommy Foster's not given this one up. He's within a second. There's 10 seconds to be added to the next pit stop of car 39. It's a car that's already been in much trouble.
The Graf car of James Swetnam and Paul Trajani for this weekend.
So that, at this stage, will be a post-race penalty.
Yes. Because it refers to the next pit stop, and there will be no next pit stop. They've already done their one mandatory one.
Just lucky to see Frank Chapard still in this, but not quite got the pace. He's been closed again by Colin Noble, who is still very much up to speed. 152 last time around. Wayne Boyd, by the way, has taken, because of that incident, 10 seconds out of the cars ahead of him.
Yeah.
So Boyd, do not count him out of getting onto the back of this group by the end of this race. I don't think he's going to quite make major progress unless there's some more, unless there's some more drama, because that never happens.
Not in Michelin Le Mans Cup, no chance. And then, of course, you've still got the confusing matter of the other United Autosports car being out of position, but it is still making a real nuisance of itself, and I really mean that in the most positive of terms, because big fan of Scott Andrews, and he, of course, is trying to work his way back through, or work the car back through the order after a trial and tribulation type stint for Jerry Kraut.
Valentin Abril has taken that penalty, drops it down to 4th, 10 seconds back, Landers fuel back. These cars are so closely matched. That's going to be a tough one to drag back.
It just shows, you know, why try and cut your pit stop to within tenths of seconds when you might lose, say, let's say a second by doing a 2:41 pit stop, as opposed to a full 20-25 seconds by having to suck up that penalty then that is inevitable. I mean, it's a black and white issue in the sense that the time is even reported on our timing screen to tell us how long each car has been in the pit lane, and if you're just a hundredth, a thousandth of a second beneath the 2 minutes 40 as it is this weekend, you will be summoned back into pit lane to serve the extra time. Not worth doing.
Meantime, by the way, Kieran Small, after that pit stop after the impact with Colin Noble, did re-emerge. He's back on track, but down in 17th place. That's cost him dearly.
Colin Noble is really pushing on now. A 152.1 is the best lap that he has done so far, as we now get full confirmation that the M Racing car is well and truly out of the race. Sasha Lehmann did get behind the wheel, so he must have done at least one lap there for the driver ID to have changed. But they're calling it a day at Ivan Muller's squad. Meantime, over the line goes the number 3 car of Jamie Winslow, still ahead of Tommy Foster in the two-tone blue of 360 Racing. Then the United Autosports car is effectively invisible as far as the timing screen's concerned, because it's a lap behind everybody else. Now a late pit stop, though, for Josh Skelton. And what is all this about? Another puncture, perhaps, because there's a tyre being readied. Their pit stop's already taken place, car number 7.
Well, 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 there's that gift, James Winslow.
A position is to finish your sentence there. The 42 Stella Motorsport Audi, its pit stop is under investigation. The James Wood and Sennett Fielding R8 LMS. 10 seconds to be added to the next pit stop for car 88. We've dealt with that, but a new message on our screen is that the 42 Stella Motorsport Audi is under investigation for its mandatory pit stop. This is taking an age for Nielsen Racing after they were having a really good race. Tony Wells initially, Josh Skelton in for the second portion. And will Skelton ever re-emerge? He's dropped all the way outside of the top 15 now. Race is led by Julien Henrion, ahead of Cedric Altramar, who for a time was being caught by Jamie Winslow, but actually that gap is stabilised at around about 4 and a bit seconds, and the pressure is more so on the DKR car of Winslow, with this queue forming up behind. Tommy Foster.
Yes, Tommy Foster, that's the man on the charge at the moment. It's then 4 seconds back to Frank Chapard, who's becoming now under pressure from the delayed Colin Noble. So Colin back up to 6th place. He is 11 seconds from 2nd place. We still have 27 minutes to go. I'm just looking at the gap with Wayne Boyd, 14 seconds now back from Colin Noble. But the gap we probably should be looking at is the gap to 2nd for him. He is definitely catching the group ahead of Colin Noble as well.
A purple sector time has just appeared on the screen. It's come from 15th position, and surprise, surprise, it's Matt Bell on the northeast of England. We should not be surprised by that one bit. John Melsom took the opening stint in car 4, and that was a troubled 45, 50 minutes or so. But now, really getting stuck in, Matt Bell.
Every chance we're going to see Matt Bell climb in this this stint from where I think he started in 21st. I'm not going to count against him finishing in the top 10 at this stage. He's been blisteringly quick.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Quickest lap of its race from the race leader. Gillian Henrion in the Team Ferrari 16 at 1:52.7. The quickest lap 2 for Cedric Ultramar in the second place Cool Racing number 87, 1:52.9. And they are pulling away from James Winslow. And James Winslow is coming under increasing pressure from Tommy Foster.
Here's Scott Mulvin in the beautifully turned out Team Parker GT3 Art 992, so the latest spec of Porsche GT3 machinery, and he's being trailed with every turn of the wheel by Brendan Leach, the man from New Zealand, sharing with Gerhard Watzinger, as they have done on several occasions in Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo cars in longer distance races. They've done plenty of 24H Series races, for instance, together. It's nice to see them move across to ACO Rules Racing.
Closing just slowly on Jan Magnussen ahead. That would be the battle, therefore, for 6th position. Keeping an eye, by the way, on the lap times of Vincent Abril. He is catching Anders Fjord back for 3rd position. Remember, he pitted for that penalty from 2nd down to 4th. Not under any immediate pressure from behind from Kei Cozzolino.
No, Josh Skelton has rejoined in the number 7 Nielsen Racing LMP3, and in fact the first name on Josh Skelton's list will be Cozzolino. 5 GT3 cars have been allowed to get in front of that now recovering Nielsen number 7 car.
Colin Noble goes ahead of Frank Chapard, and his next target 5 seconds ahead now, Tommy Foster for 4th place.
Again, eking out the gap very slightly here and there. In fact, Cedric Ultramar was a bit quicker than Gillian Henrion, presumably through the traffic last time around, but they both did. No, it can't be traffic because they're both their PB times, personal best for both the 16 and the 87. So
Ultramar is finding pace in this phase of the race, no
definitely.
doubt about it whatsoever. Tim Kresick and the HCR with Caffeine 6 crew, watching the progress of teammate Anders Fjordback. Team Tour also run by High Class Racing in the same garage. Warning for the paddock, they will be sharing garages for this race, of course.
Lock up in the foreground there, didn't quite catch which car it was, but having a moment, and the smoke is still in the air. Was that the 77 car that was having a lock-up? Because I don't remember the Murphy Prototypes car being ahead of it into the corner. Here comes Brendan Leach from a long way back for a move on Scott Mulvin. Do they avoid contact? Yeah. Yes, just about.
Oh, but that's Mulvin wide and a bit squirrely out that corner.
So Leach will have another shout at it here into Virage de l'Hôtel at the end of the straight. He's going to have to do it the hard way, though, around the outside, unless it's the outside-inside trick. Oh, to the high side of turn 4. Now, if he gets this right, this will be the inside line for turn 5, but no, Leach backs out of it. Great car control from the two of them. Committed, and yet you still had the insurance policy to leap on the brakes that little bit more with this ABS power of the brakes.
Indeed.
To avoid any contact.
Closing on the pair of them, though, is Manu Collard, the Peter Pan of sports car racing, never seems to age. Manu Collard. There's probably a picture of him somewhere in his loft.
We're looking exactly the same as he does today, but taken 30 years ago.
Yes, it's a drive-through penalty for Kiel Small for causing the collision with car 77. So Small in 16th place, and that will cost him a couple of positions, I think.
What was the last lap like for Colin Noble? Because I feared that he was the one.
1:53.5.
I feared he was the one locking up, but no, that doesn't show any evidence of that. So it doesn't really explain who was having a moment at turn 11, just out of frame.
Much quicker lap this time, extends the lead for Gillian Henrion. Still our battle for the final position on the podium. They're going to be watching their mirrors soon, because closing in 10th by 10th and still with 22 minutes to go is the number 77 Team Tour car. This time Tommy Foster alongside, and he has made it stick, because even if this retains the position for James Winslow, he should cede that place.
Well, he's gone wide, and he's trying to brake maybe a little earlier.
Now he lets him go.
It was almost contact there, and actually that's only allowed the 25 car to run off the road briefly. So Jamie Winslow not giving this up. but he took a firm advantage through turn 12, something he's still, I would argue, benefiting from. They are neck and neck down towards the first corner.
But that has cost them a second in the battle. There you go, through goes Tommy Foster. Cost him a second to the chasing Colin Noble, who's coming into turn 2 as they were coming out of it.
So Foster back into third, ahead of Winslow, fourth. Colin Noble recovering to fifth. Oh, but Foster's having his own moment, very, very wide through turn 4. And this could allow Winslow to get a much better run out of 6 and 7 and onto the Mistral straight. And of course, Colin Noble sitting back, well, he's a few cars back in actual fact.
Catching them very quickly. That gap was 4.7 seconds last lap. It's 2.6 now.
But Scott Andrews, not on the lead lap, will remind you, wanting to find a way by as well. Foster zigzagging from one side of the track to the other side of the track, but following his every move is Jamie Winslow, who had to take one quick look in the mirror there to make sure that there was nobody fully alongside. Foster again drifting across towards Winslow's side of the road and prevents the Duquesne DKR car from getting in front. But I have to say, Tommy Foster needs to be a little bit cautious of doing that too often and blocking potentially a car, because there were several direction changes there. Normally the concern is a direction change in the braking area, but what you're preventing is a good run from a car behind, and then it should really be a straight drag race.
So end of the lap approaching, 2.7 seconds behind this pair, and all of a sudden Tommy Foster's gapped James Winslow. There is Noble, trying to get to the rear end of the Duquesne.
Cedric Ultramare still finding speed. He's just done a personal best through the second sector.
Closed the gap again by a second, doesn't he?
Yeah, the 21-year-old Frenchman chasing the 20-year-old Frenchman. So again, these are potential stars of the future in the European Le Mans Series, perhaps moving up another level in the coming years. They've only just headed into the Michelin Le Mans Cup, but it's clearly drawing strong attention to themselves from the teams that they've been signed by, but also I'm sure plenty of other teams up and down pit road. This
is why there was that, been dealing with traffic, the race leader. That's what closed the gap a little. And of course, sure as eggs is eggs, Ultramar will have to do the same. Gap is 4.5 seconds. Tommy Foster a further 7 seconds back. It is another drive-through penalty for car 2. It's just had a penalty, and that is overtaken beyond the track limits at 18.25. So it goes from bad to worse for Kirill Small.
Bryson Morris also receiving the black and orange mechanical flag.
For the second time.
And that's because of the rear of the car and the cheese wedge not being in the right position or not being there at all. So this is... how much time between those two flags then? Is this an entirely different showing of the black and orange flag?
Totally
or just
different.
Right. So it's been in and theoretically repaired it, and now it's maybe broken free from whatever half a job that the team have done. And it's difficult, don't get me wrong, I'm not having to go there. The Inter-Europol competition squad going to have to think again about their repair method, perhaps.
Yeah. If indeed at this point they regard it as being worthwhile going back out.
True.
Running last in LMP3, here is the 83 car. And that is a change of position. 83 in the hands of Manu Collard, ahead of Scott Mulvin now. And Mulvin, if you recall, was ahead of the Lamborghini. You'll see in a wider shot of this car. There it goes, the red and grey car. Lipa Motorsport, Brendan Leach. Noble is past James Winslow.
Yes, just spotted that. Team Tour, the 77, getting ahead of Winslow, presumably on the start-finish straight.
Yep, up to 4th place now. And there's a podium in prospect here. Tommy Foster is the target.
Remember, this was after a spin as well, after the contact from Kirill Small, judged to be...
Cost him about 10 seconds, I reckon that.
Judged to be the driver of the number 2 car's fault. And... there's now also a drive-through penalty for car 2 for overtaking beyond the track limits. That happened, what, about 20 minutes or so ago?
He's had 3 penalties.
Okay, okay.
How many stops has that car had? 2. No, 2. He's had 2. Well, this will be the 3rd then. This will be the 3rd penalty for that car.
Yeah. So Kirill Small, the authorised neutral athlete, as I think he's correctly referred by, will have to, unfortunately for him, come back into pit road. But yeah, some fairly wayward driving at times. But he might say, well, I was sort of put upon by Colin Noble after a forceful overtake at the end of the lap to give the 77 the place not too long ago. Now Colin Noble running in 4th position, 2 seconds adrift of Tommy Foster.
Closing, 4/10 quicker last time around than Foster.
Jamie Winslow breaching track limits on this lap through sector 1, so hopefully that's a fairly early warning there for the number 3 car.
Keeping an eye, by the way, on the pace of Wayne Boyd. He is now closing to within shouting distance of Frank Chapard for 6th, and James Winslow is just 4 seconds ahead of that. So I think a podium's going to be out of reach for Wayne Boyd without help. But boy, oh boy, he's pushed hard. Where meanwhile is Matt Bell, 14th now. And right on the rear end, 13th place, Belen Garcia. In the 360 Racing number 25, or solo female driver here, ex-Formula W racer Belen.
Vincent Abril still taking chunks of time out of Anders Fjordbach in 3rd position, so Abril desperate for a podium finish here.
Absolutely.
He's got the gap down to 2.9 seconds, but he took a couple of seconds away. Oh, a spin for the 27 LMP3 car. That's the 24/7 Motorsport car that's already been in trouble with the stewards earlier on, and that's a terrible place to be parked at turn 5, right in the middle of the track between 5 and 6, but broadside.
Can't get it started. Oh, this is a horrible place to be off the track. Lewis Hamilton-Smith. Now, what you don't want is a couple of battling cars to come across this. One goes left, and the other one has nowhere to go.
Well, the marshals will be frantically waving yellow flags. We also have the addition of the LED boards, of course, as well. This place no stranger to night racing. At the start of the month, it was the 1,000-kilometre GT3 race, and also we've had ELMS races go into the night here previously. So we've got very bright LED boards warning that the 27 car is stranded. But if it stays there for much longer, I can't see much else other than a full course yellow being the suitable way to enable that car to be recovered, probably by marshal power now.
Well, would you? I'm not being funny, it's in the middle of the track. Is it a marshal power or is it a safety car? It's a big call.
It is a very big call. There are, I would say, sufficient gaps. If you wave cars to one side of that or the other, you could wave them way out wide onto the high-friction asphalt, but the danger is there, tyre pickup, and something even more nasty than that. Pretty much the whole of the field knows that that car is there, and they know which side of the road that they can safely go past it now. So it's still being covered by double waved yellows. And
it can't be long before they're going to have to make a call, aren't they?
Yeah, but, well, either one, it is going to be a full course yellow, at least for now. Do it that way, and then you can always increase the caution level from full course yellow into a safety car if necessary. But I think it's going to be a quad bike with a towing strop from the front of that car. Yeah. The difficulty is, like you say, you've got cars waving by or zipping by both to the rear and the front of Lewis Hamilton-Smith's machine. And that is not an enviable place to be sitting, particularly as a Ligier is a left-hand drive car.
I don't want to be him at this moment. It's horrible. Almost waiting for what seems to be inevitable.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, the field at speed will be tempered now to 80 kilometres per hour. And there's always the scope for it to lessen yet further between turn 5 and 6. I reckon everybody will be told to stay hard right of that stranded car now. And there's confusion and, in fact, a bigger drama for the Aston Martin. This is the class leader, Val Hasclo, has suddenly ground to a halt in the number 10 car. And there goes the Lamborghini of Patrick Kuyala into the race lead. Now, that was, strictly speaking, overtaking under a full-course yellow. However, the rule is, if a car is obviously in trouble, you are allowed to overtake it.
What happened there? It was almost like he went for the limiter and it died.
Has he hit the kill switch rather than the full course yellow limiter? It's like the car's just suddenly gone bang and there's no power, but it did restart.
Almost immediately, and there, you're right, there goes, well, nothing that the Lamborghini could do about that. The car had stopped.
Yeah. Exactly.
So,
having been shown a race steering wheel in a GTE car earlier this weekend, depending on how you've got the buttons configured, you could have your full course yellow limiter right next to the kill switch.
well, Lippert Motorsport go to the lead. 27 car is recovered to a place of safety. We're back to green flag running shortly. Cedric Ultramar, by the way, 12.6 seconds to the good at this point. Tommy Foster is 7 seconds. 4.8 seconds. Okay, actually think about this. These gaps are not quite true, are they, with the full course yellow?
No, no. Severely extended. But the key news is that having been in such a comfortable position, Valentin Hasclaux has now given away the race lead, either with a car error or, I think more accurately, a driver error, pressing entirely the wrong button. And
we're going back,
what drama.
Back to green in 30 seconds, 35 seconds time.
Patrick Kuyala must not be able to believe his luck here, because he sees the car he's been chasing all race, or certainly within his stint, stopped at the side of the road. It's perfectly fine now in the hands of Hasclaux, but only able to go at 80 kilometres per hour, and that must be so galling to see the 19 Lamborghini in front now rather than behind.
Least surprising thing we could be told is that they've got the wheels configured on this car, or the GTE car, in a different way.
Yeah. No, entirely. And you can, you know, it's often a Cosworth steering wheel, and you can put the buttons not quite where you want, but you allocate them depending on what the drivers prefer. But we now have a completely different complexion in the GT3 category, with Finnish driver Patrick Kuyala in the Lippert Motorsport Lamborghini leading GT3, and a highly frustrated, I'm sure if it is a mistake from Val Hasclaux, he'll be so revved up trying to reel in Kuyala, but he's only got 10 minutes to do it.
Car 86 under investigation for full course yellow behaviour. That is the HCR with caffeine 6 car. Third place at the moment in drama filled at the moment, GT3 class. So 10 minutes, under 10 minutes to go. The gaps as we clear timing beams. 10 seconds added, by the way, to car 42, that's Stella Motorsports Audi, for pit stop infringement. 3.5 seconds is the gap to the leaders. 0.676, sorry, 3 points. What's happened? Colin Noble's lost a place on the restart.
To James Winslow in the DKR car.
I was about to say that his speed coming into the yellow had seemed to be a little bit off.
Okay.
So it'd be interesting to see at the moment what Colin's lap times are like as we get back to a full lap time. But he did seem to drop back from Tommy Foster just before we went yellow.
Well, thankfully for Colin, he's not going to lose any more places, because Wayne Boyd is 9 seconds further back down the road, but the Ulsterman is well and truly revved up.
Well, he's passed Frank Chapard, he was 25 seconds behind him.
Yeah. Now, another headache for Val Hasclaux is that a lapped Team Parker Porsche stands in his way to a clean sight of the class-leading Lippert Motorsport car of Patrick Kuyala. So, Kuyala not for catching at the moment. I don't think he's been given this much of a gift ever in his career, so he's going to take this with both hands. And Kuyala right with Fraser Ross, actually, who drives an LMP2 car. They're only separated by 1.1 seconds, but that's because Fraser's just got past him for position.
That's the break Graph Racing Ligier.
HCR with caffeine 6 and Anders Fjord Black. Gap back to Vincent Abril after the restart from the full course yellow. Still about the same, 2.6 seconds. So Abril needs to be clinical through this traffic if he wants to catch the Dane in the championship leading Porsche.
Keeping an eye on the pace, and Noble's pace not bad, not awful. It's not quite what it was, but it's not awful. So whether or not there's just been a bit of a fumble there from Colin, I don't know. Whether his tyres are beginning to cry enough. Well, this is the third, fourth, fifth battle. Foster, Winslow, Noble. 8.2 seconds back is Wayne Boyd.
Jamie Winslow had to go to the outside line there of the number 55 GMB Motorsport NSX of Simon Berg, and it meant that as the number 3 car went very wide, Colin Noble was actually able to tuck underneath the Honda NSX, and that gave the Scots a little bit more time back on Winslow. Anders
Fjordbak reported to the stewards for abusing track limits. That would normally be a drive-through penalty, wouldn't it? Is that going to cost him? It is going to cost him a podium finish.
Yeah. It's one of those messages that we see with a pink backing, and if it says reported to the stewards, then it's more than just the warning flags that, for instance, Scott Malvern is getting in the number 18 Team Parker 992 Porsche. So yes, likely that the 86 car is about to be given some sort of penalty, possibly to be added to the race time at the end of the race, and that would drop him behind Vincent Abril if Abril doesn't get the place before that, because he's now sliced the gap to half of what it was, 1.2 seconds.
Absolutely, it really is bubbling up to be quite the grandstand finish. With 6 minutes to go, it's all about who's going to finish third overall and what the podium position is going to be in GT3. At the moment, class leaders, Gillian Henrion, comfortably ahead in 5 seconds to the good from Pacific Ultramar, who's driven beautifully since he was passed. And in GT3, Patrick Kajala, 2 seconds to the good ahead of Valentino Haseklo. As Josh Skelton pits in the number 7 Nielsen racing car that gets out the way of the GT3 battle behind him.
Here comes Colin Noble running 5th, but with Jamie Winslow in sight. And is he going to try one of those classic Colin Noble overtakes into turn 14? Here he comes from so far back, and Jamie Winslow didn't even see him coming. Well, the number of times I've seen Colin Noble do that over the years, I would have thought Jamie Winslow would have been slightly wiser to that fact. Again, he forced Winslow out onto the grass, or out onto the runoff, similar to what he did with Kirill Smal. But Noble, for me, was fully alongside.
Confirmed drive-through penalty for the 3rd place car in GT3. That's bad news for Anders Fjordbak. Tim Kresick, good news for Hiroshi Hamaguchi and Vincent Abril. That will gift them 3rd place. I think that's as far as they're going to go, though. It's 21 seconds then before Valentin Haseklo, who is closing on Patrick Kajala, 1.3 seconds for the win.
Yeah. So the drive-through penalty, well, I was to say unlikely to be served. If it's not served, it will be converted into a time penalty to be added on at the end of the race for the HCR car. But that's crucial because they came to this event, remember, as the championship leaders, and were looking to continue to just keep their championship bubbling nicely with a podium finish, and now likely to drop away out of the point scoring positions that deliver 25, 18 and 15 points. It'll either be 12 or it could even be 10 for the HCR with Caffeine 6. Just hearing about a loose wheel in the pit lane for the pit-stopping number 7 car. Ah, right, that's the reason why Josh Skelton came in then. A loose wheel on car 7, which has now been rectified, and Murphy Prototype's facing the wrong way between turns 5 and 6, Graham.
Now there's potential drama for 63, car 63. The car we're just talking about, inheriting a podium position, under investigation for not respecting race director instructions in turn 2. Just a minute ago, it was that. Vincent Abril trying to get by the Porsche.
So the race direction instructions, neither Graham nor me were in the driver's briefing, but clearly there's a set rule that if you outbrake yourself into turns 1 and 2, you then have to use an extra bit of the track to make sure A, you rejoin safely, and B, you don't gain time whilst doing it.
Tommy Foster, by the way, is right with the 2nd place car now, and Colin Noble is just a second and a half behind that. So 2nd and 3rd still up for grabs. James Winslow may have been overtaken. He's only a further 1.5 seconds back. 3 minutes to go, 2 laps effectively.
Yeah, so keeping our eyes peeled to the sharp end of each of the classes. Patrick Kujala building, well, I won't say a comfortable lead, but it's around about 2.5 seconds, which he can now start to manage. A great run from Vincent Abril in the Iron Lynx Lamborghini. Let's call it as we see it, denying the penalties for the moment, because now getting up the inside of the Porsche, a really good run on Danish driver Anders Fjordbak, and that will put Abril up a place on the road, let's say.
So remember, the 86 car has been dealt a drive-through, am I right?
Yes.
63 car under investigation for not respecting race director's instructions.
Yeah, and the 86.
I think that has typically been a 10-second penalty.
Okay.
At the next pit stop.
Yes, so that will be soaked up instead.
More than that for the 86.
I think likely, but the 86 is going to serve its drive-through penalty now, so that should be that getting out of the way. And you're probably better off doing it in the race rather than something like a 35-second penalty for a drive-through penalty.
So the next car in the line is the F Corsa car Castellet, so we should be watching for the red Ferrari coming through. Where is that car? Can't be far from the end of the lap.
Castellet is the number 51, and on
crossing the line now.
Yes, agreed.
And he's going to take that position.
He will. So the all-red Ferrari we're looking out for, as the HCR with Caffeine 6 Porsche was still at that frustrating 60 kilometres per hour. We saw it briefly from the drone. On to the last lap we go for race leader Julien Omrion, though, still leading by a little over 5 seconds. But the fight is on still between these two cars, 87 Ultramar and Tommy Foster in the chasing 360 racing car. Not quite close enough, though, working their way through turn 6 and 7.
Colin Noble there as well. For another 10 minutes, don't you? It's coming together nicely. So maybe the last full course yellow has robbed us of what could have been an even more exciting finish.
Well, with the new Orica built engine for LMP3s, that might allow us to go back to 2-hour-long races.
That'd be nice.
So we'd have the full 120 rather than this slightly shortened race after the new Nissan engine came out and is rather thirsty on fuel. We'll have another season of that in 2024. But beyond that, a brand new power plant. Twin turbocharged V6 we're here. Meantime, Julien Omrion, 5.5 seconds to the good over Cedric Ultramar. Will this Ultramar Tommy Foster battle change, though? Will Tommy Foster do a Colin Noble up the inside into turn 14? He is just about within touching distance to try it. I don't think Colin Noble, though, is, well, quite with them in order to slot up the inside. But Julien Omrion will make sure that the 63 Lamborghini has to do at least one more lap unless he can overtake it here. Yes, that will seal things, in fact, for the 63, because the checkered flag waves now. Josh Skelton deliberately out of the gas to allow the race leader across the line. And for the second time this year, Julien Omrion, together with his teammate Julien Gerby, will take a win in the longer Michelin Le Mans Cup races to cement their championship lead with 4 races to go.
The podium positions in LMP3 stayed the same. Cedric Ultramar 4.97 seconds back, quarter of a second back to Tommy Foster, half a second back to Colin Noble, Jamie Winslow, 3 seconds back at the flag, and Wayne Boyd couldn't quite get there. Oh, that was very tight.
These cars are all still racing, of course. They haven't yet reached the finish line, so if you're further back around the track and not seeing the checkered flag, still continue to be door handle to door handle.
Was that Matt Bell involved there? That's Matt Bell going up into the top 10.
Yeah, Matt Bell through the next split is shown in 10th, as you say. Nicolas Schatz just ahead of him in the number 6 ANS Motorsport car. Actually, Matt Bell loses a position to Daniel Kylvitz through the latest split, so he's dropped to 11th place as Kylvitz moves on forward for Rinaldi Racing. So over the line they will go now, and Kylvitz will be very, very chuffed with those closing stages. The 66 somehow getting ahead of the number 4 Duquesne of the Newcastle driver, with Daniel Ali in the Inter-Europol competition number 14. 12th, Belin Garcia 13th and Ralph Kellener's 14th. And here is the victory for Patrick Kuyala in the Leipert Motorsport number 19 car. 19 is in the clear regarding any penalties. I want to say that tentatively, but yes, 19 we haven't seen anything about that car having to be penalised either before or after the end of the race. And Gabriel Rindone with a thoroughly impressive stint where he was second for a lot of the time and ahead of the 63 Lamborghini of Hiroshi Hamaguchi. Well, that was the foundation being laid, and Patrick Kuyala, I won't say quite finished the job, because it actually meant it needed a lot of bad luck for the number 10 Aston Martin to effectively break down. I still think Valentin Hasclot hit the kill switch rather than the full course yellow button, and that's what allowed Patrick Kuyala into the class lead, something he would not give up afterwards.
Drive-through penalty for car 86 for behaviour under full course yellow was converted in time. That's now shown. They dropped from 4th to 9th place. That's a big hit.
Well, they did the drive-through penalty, the 86 car. So is that another drive-through that had to be served? Anders Fjordbach came down pit road in car 86.
Did he get 2?
Maybe there were 2 drive-through penalties.
One said about behaviour under full course yellow. The other one said overtaking off track.
Right, okay.
He must have got 2 late race penalties.
So the drive-through penalty for car 86 for behaviour under a full course yellow converted into time, but let's not overshadow the celebrations here for the second time this year. Julien Henrion then with another victory in the longer races, and richly deserved indeed. Always knew that this kid could be on for something special, having covered a full season of Ligier European Series racing with you, Graham, and watching many, many victories for Julien Henrion.
It wasn't just the fact that he won, it was the way he won. He won with heads-up racing, and I'm delighted to see that's converted here into an LMP3. And who knows, maybe a few more teams and young drivers might be looking at the Ligier European Series to prove the talent that their drivers have got. But that was an excellent win from Team Virage, number 16 car.
The other fantastic news for the 16 is that their nearest championship rivals, the number 2 car, had a nightmare.
It did, down in 19th place at the flag.
The 97 car only finished in 8th place, with David Drew finishing that drive off. So perhaps their nearest championship rivals will be Team Tor now in the 77 car for Colin Noble and Auden Gudmundsson. We'll take a look at the points very, very shortly.
Yeah, but car finishing 4th place.
Yeah, so 12 points the difference, but that's still opening up another 13-point advantage in the favour of 16.
Would say, by the way, Colin Noble, I'm absolutely certain that if and when I speak to him after the race, we'll say I could have won that race.
Yeah, without the spin, without the contact from Kirill Smal, I think almost certainly he would have been in the mixture. But smiles all around for the 20-year-old from Nancy, Julien Henrion, and he's now joined by Julien Gerby as well. And Gerby carries dual nationality, but I think I remember seeing something earlier on about him being, yes, from Nice. So this is very
French
much
and Spanish.
French and Spanish.
Yes.
But the point being, Nice just down the road, so this is definitely his local track, and a result to be very proud of as he heads home. He's probably been sleeping in his own bed this weekend, if indeed he still is based in the city of Nice.
Well, you know, it's been a long run to form for Team Virage, but boy, are they there now.
Yeah, true.
That's 3 race wins today for them.
Across the Ligiers and, yeah, Michelin Le Mans Cup. They have cars in the European Le Mans Series for tomorrow as well. Victory Lane, or the Victory Quadrant, if you prefer, with both the LMP3 and the GT3 winners. Patrick Cueillard stepping out to receive congratulations from the rest of the Lippert team, and I'm sure his teammate Gabriel Rindone very close by as well. And terrific result for Lippert Motorsport, have been long runners in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Cup division, and making the move to GT3, well, a few seasons ago, but Lippert not regulars in this championship. They often do the Road to Le Mans event, but it's rarer to see a full campaign from one of their cars. They know Huracans front to back, and Cueillard needed, as mentioned, a little bit of luck along the way. Valentin Haskell will be kicking himself at that mistake. The number 10 car may well leave Le Castellet still with the championship lead in hand. They entered this, sorry, not the championship lead, but Anders Fjordbach and Tim Kresick were leading by a handful of points. That might well have brought them, well, it has brought them closer to the number 86 car because of the trials and tribulations for HCR with Caffeine 6. 2 late drive-through penalties, one of them served, one of them not. Let's get a flavour of how things are then down at Virage with Steph Wentworth.
Julien Henrion, it was an incredible race from you, number 16 Team Virage, 2nd win of the season. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. First of all my thoughts to the family of Dilano, so it is in my heart. And yeah, that was an amazing race. We took the choice to use the new tires for free practice too, so we had less good tires than the others, but yeah, we managed to keep the gap and we win, so I'm super happy.
And you're extending a great championship lead now with those 2 races. Are you thinking that far ahead about securing the championship already?
To be honest, I don't think about it. For me, it is like if I was last in the championship, I have always the same goal to win. So yeah, I will think about it at the end of the championship.
right, congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So much to look back on after we hear there from Julien Henrion, and Julien Gerby will be just as chuffed, I'm sure, joining in with the victory. But this was us getting underway at about 5:10, and a huge incident first of all for Chris Short, who received contact from behind from the number 68 car of Miguel Cristoval. Also very wayward for Charles-Henri Samani, wedged in between two other GT3 cars with very few directions to go to avoid the contact. It was pincer movement from both left and right. That would enforce an early safety car, but thankfully it only lasted about 4 minutes before we were racing again, and absolutely nose to tail for second and third between the two Lamborghinis, but from rival squads, Lightbird and Iron Lynx. This was the sorry moment where Chris Short's, the sister car at Inter-Europol competition, the 13 car of Ben Stone, it would be called a day there. Sideways for Fabien Michal as he misjudged an overtake, and then the 8 car running off in sympathy for George Nakas, but that did appear to be a completely unrelated moment down at turn 5. Pit stops would happen under full course yellow, and entirely, because there was another caution period which basically enveloped the whole of that opportunity to make a pit stop after the 45 minutes from predominantly bronze drivers had been served. The switch then to silver and golds was all done then, and we went back to green flag running with Virage and the number 16 car of Julien Gerby fighting hard, or Julien Henrion by this point, fighting hard with the chasing team Cool Racing car of Cedric Ultramar. Also a terrific battle between Jamie Winslow and Nielsen Racing's Josh Skelton in the number 7. The pit stops would continue, and also the stop and go penalties for a number of cars up and down the order, and for a variety of infringements. The outside line was favourable for Tommy Foster, although he ran out wide trying to get the place away from Jamie Winslow, and have several stabs at that. Finally, though, up the inside, the 360 Racing car would go to pick off the DKR's Duquesne of Jamie Winslow. Then this horrible moment for car 27, driver Louis Hamilton-Smith stranded in the middle of the road, and during the full course yellow to clear Louis' car, this bizarre moment for Valhas Clos, as we think he went for the full course yellow button. It may have caught the kill switch instead, which immediately stopped the Aston Martin that was leading the GT3 class at the time, and that would allow Patrick Cuyala through on his inside, overtaking under a full course yellow, yes, but the 10 car, the Aston Martin, was clearly in its own trouble, so therefore permitted. This was Julien Henrion crossing the line amongst lots of slow cars to make sure that they would finish their race there. But Julien Henrion and Julien Gerby, winners in Barcelona, are winners here at Le Castellet as well. And quite a moment for that squad at Team Virage. The conversations now being had at the back of the podium, and a deserved glug of water as well, because whether you've been in that car for 45 minutes and had about an hour's break since then, or whether you've been in the car for well over an hour, you deserve some refreshment. And we in an air-conditioned commentary box applaud very loudly to everyone who's been working hard out in the blistering heat. 51 laps completed for the Team Virage number 16 car, winning by just under 5 seconds over Cool Racing Cedric Ultramar and his teammate Adrian Schiller. 360 Racing finished third, ahead of Team Tour in fourth, the number 77, and it was DKR Engineering's Duquesne in fifth. Sixth place for United Autosports and Wayne Boyd. So he really did side his way up the order, together with Jonathan Brossard, together with, beg your pardon, the teammate at United Autosports, who is not Jerry Crow, get there in a minute, John Showerman, yep. Wayne Boyd's teammate. And GT3, Lippert Motorsports, Patrick Cuyala, the 19 car, winning with Gabriele Rindone. Racing Spirit of Le Mans, Valentin Hasclo, surely kicking himself. Arnold Robin will be offering some condolence, I'm sure, to say, hey, we still scored good points, 18 to their championship tally, and third position for Iron Lynx in the 63 car. Tommy
Foster and Terence Woodward there in the foreground of that picture. I need to double check. I think they're going to be second in the standings after this race. It's going to be quite tight.
We shouldn't need to double check, because we'll hopefully get a graphic in a moment or two giving us the full detail of the championship positions heading to Aragon in a few weeks' time. Just over a month.
360 Racing and Cool Racing to the podium before we see our winners.
So it's Tommy Foster and Terence Woodward to the far side of the podium, receiving congratulations from Adrian Schiller, who did the opening stint in car 87 for Cool Racing, and Cedric Ultramar. But the win will go to Team Virage for Julien Omrion and the number 16 crew. So it'll be the national anthem of Poland for the team, for Spanish/Frenchman Julien Gerbi, and through and through Frenchman Julien Omrion. The team overseen by Julian Falquero, but that is the number 16's team engineer, I would imagine, standing in the middle of the duo that have done all of the driving in this heat in the south of France.
Cracking race in LMP3.
Yes, it was.
It was throughout that race, and yes, we have one or two teams with woes throughout, but for the most part, I'm sure with one or two drivers will tell me different when down the paddock a little later. It was good and fair.
Well, there'll be many stories to tell, of course. We try and cover it as best as possible and as neutrally as possible as well, although sometimes I might sort of lump in with an opinion here and there, but generally the race direction has sided with that, and 20 points is the gap, as you quite rightly say, to the new second-place team, 360 Racing, and that is all due to the cracking result for Terence Woodward and Tommy Foster. So extending the gap to 20 points now, Julien Gerbi and Julien Omrion.
And just a point ahead of Team Tour. It's a pleasure to see new teams, different teams at the top end of a championship.
Yeah, long may that continue, and I think it's fair to say there is a bit of a pattern building now, with still 3 races now to go. We've had the 4th this year with the first at Barcelona, the 2 shorter races as part of Road to Le Mans, and now here at Le Castellet we will have Aragon and Spa and Portimao still to come at the end of the year. Julien Omrion, Julien Gerbi lead the championship by 20 points over Terence Woodward and Tommy Foster for 360 Racing. Auden Goodmanson, Colin Noble, as you say, just a point back, and 4 back from that, Adrian Schiller and Cedric Ultramar for Cool Racing. Another 3 to the David Drew and Louis Saint-Jouin car, which is the other Cool Racing machine, number 97.
You know what, I'd struggle to pick a driver at the race there. Certainly, Julien Omrion, absolutely excellent in the lead, but Cedric Ultramar, albeit he ceded the lead, but boy did he hang on in there with huge pressure indeed. Looking further back, Tommy Foster fought away hugely there, and then Colin Noble and Wayne Boyd picking up a massive time penalty to get back up into podium contention.
Let's catch up with our GT3 winners. Before that, we'll do the podium, in fact. So, first of all, to the far side, it's the number 63 Lamborghini of Hiroshi Hamaguchi and Vincent Abril. Second place going to Racing Spirit of Le Mans for Valentin Hasclot, putting a brave face on things, perhaps. We haven't got the full story yet as to what happened with that Aston Martin, but Arnaud Robin, nevertheless, with a smile across his face, hopping and skipping up towards the podium, and Robin helping Hasclot too there, maybe looking a little downbeat. And almost reservedly walking their way up the steps. Here come the winners in the number 19 car. Gabriele Rindone, who was most impressive. Patrick Kuyala doing what Patrick Kuyala does so well.
Massive improvement in the form from Gabriele Rindone. Best race I think I've ever seen him run. Absolutely excellent.
Yeah. And congratulations as well to Sebastian Wittrich, who is the team boss at Lippert. the national anthem. As it fades away, the national anthem of Germany for Lippert Motorsports. Handshakes all round on the third step of the podium then for, first of all, Iron Lynx, and for that Italian team, the combination of Japanese and Monegasque drivers. It is Frenchman Val Hasclot joined by the man from Le Sat, no less, Arnold Robin. And those two drivers will be in action in the European Le Mans Series in the same car tomorrow, in the number 72 Aston Martin run by TF Sport. But it is a win for Lippert and for the driver with the United Arab Emirates national licence, alongside Finnish driver Patrick Kujala, the gold-rated driver by the FIA. And now, I'm sure so many of these drivers have been most looking forward to this portion of the evening, because it's nearly 7:20 on Saturday night now. The champers can break open and hope to ideally cool down some of these drivers in very, very warm race suits.
I was just checking as we look at the points situation with Racing Spirit Le Mans still 10 points clear of the HDR with Caffeine 6. Porsche, Lippert Motorsports number 19, a further 10 back, and they of course has 51 on the same points. Team Parker's 18, Porsche single point behind that. That, I believe, is the first ever win in GT3 Le Mans Cup by a German team.
Okay, so not even by Lippert full stop,
no,
but at any German team.
I believe in GT3 by any German team.
Okay, even the Road to Le Mans events. Yeah, you might well be right. We had a German winner in Max Hesse this year, but they from a Belgian outfit, Team WRT. Yeah, okay. I'll take your word for that, definitely. Arnold Robin, Val Hasclot still retaining the championship lead by 10 over Anders Fjordbach and Tim Kresick, who had a nightmare in HCR by Caffeine 6. Porsche, Gabriele Rindoni and Patrick Kujala right in the championship hunt now, 10 points further back, courtesy of 25 points for Lippert Motorsport there.
So what can we say?
You started the race. How was it? How did it feel? How was the atmosphere for you?
Well, it was very good. I had a good start from P3 to P2. I looked even at the P1 I tried, but I kept it safe and then tried to keep, steady laps. I was thinking for the long of the race, really.
Thinking for the long haul. Okay, perfect. And what were you thinking when you saw the car ahead of you stop in? Because that was a very contentious moment, and you overtook it, and now here you are with the win of the race.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, thanks to the team, to Lamborghini Squadra Corse. They have done an amazing job this weekend, and I would say luck was on our side, but we were pushing all the way. If we didn't push, the Aston, even if he had the problem, he would have stayed in front. So, yeah, never give up. You never know what can happen, and today was the perfect example.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, firmly agree with that. Patrick Kujala's got to be applying the pressure, and in the box seat to get a reward from the good luck. So, Graham, thank you for your company over the last couple of hours to enjoy the latest round of the Michelin Le Mans Cup. And let's hope that Racing Spirit of Le Mans are able to put a brave face on things, because they will leave Le Castellet still with the championship lead. And there's lots of points still on offer, 75 from the races that remain alone. Thoroughly enjoyable and up and down affair in both GT3 and LMP3. Join us again at the end of next month for the next round of the Michelin Le Mans Cup. Bye-bye.